I tell you, ever since I just started tuning into your podcast, and I can't get enough of it. I love it.
It's a lot of fun. It's pretty heavy at times, especially if you're not super into it, which is why I just maybe kind of forced Blue's hand and went like, hey, we need to do introduction episodes now because there's too much shit.
Yeah, your last one was on the intro of the 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. You kind of hold everybody's hand and say, okay, here's what we're going to start talking about and start getting into, and I love that part.
Try to make it accessible to everybody.
I'm anxious to learn more about lore, but my thing is I just don't know where to start.
That's totally fair.
And I'm going to set it up with that too. Or I have some frustrations about the lore in Destiny 1.
Oh yeah, let's get into it. Like I'm ready. I'm ready for all of this.
Guardian down.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and thanks for hanging out with us today. Welcome to episode 55 of Guardian Downcast. We're a couple of dads that talk about all things in the Destiny universe and interview content creators and community members to find out more about them. I'm your host, The Gator, and my co-host, Mr. Hazelnut, is here as well. Hey, I haven't seen you this week much, Hazel. Is work kicking your butt? What's going on, man?
Yeah, it's still treating me like a piñata. I'm just working, and I mean, I don't even think I took a break yesterday, I think. Yeah, I don't think so. So, yeah, no break, no lunch, just roughing it a little bit. But hey, let's go with it and see where it takes us and go from there. So, yeah, besides that, not much else going on. What about you, man?
Well, it's kitchen duty week 3. The countertops came in today. Man, do they look good. I sent a picture of them to our Discord, and I just noticed that me and Burning Wing's floors look identical. It's pretty cool. He says, I see a familiar aesthetic here. I was like, yeah, I do too. Same exact floors almost. It's really nice. But my biggest thing is right now, Central Florida is going through a bad mess as far as, do we go back to school? We not go back to school? My wife is a teacher, by the way. And there's actually a lawsuit pending right now between the teachers and the school board, where they're suing them because they've already got cases of COVID in some of the schools over the summer, and they won't disclose which schools, and they're suing to have people. It's just a big mess right now. And then, my wife is supposed to go back to school. Well, she's already going back to school for pre-planning, but now they're in 2 weeks it's going to be for real, and the parents don't know what to do. Nobody knows what to do. It's, as usual, nothing is planned out, nothing is organized, so it's just a bunch of ants just running everywhere, so sorry, I didn't get on my rant this early.
Well, no, you're good, man. But I mean, I'm on the other side of that because my daughter is getting ready to go back to preschool, and we've got like some family that's watching her that are like, well, we don't really know if we're going to be able to watch her because, she's going to be hanging out with other kids. And then it's like, oh, well, fuck, what are we going to do now?
Yeah.
It's like, all right. So we're like investigating all these different options and things like this. And the school, like, I guess there's one preschool that just said no. They had a full preschool, and they were like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do preschool this year. So our preschool is like, well, we're already capped out, so we're not going to add anything else. Well, then the governor of Ohio comes out and goes, hey, you know what we're going to do? We're going to increase class sizes.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What? It just boggles my mind. I just shake my head. I don't know what to think. I mean, my wife gets COVID, brings it home to me, then I'm messed up. I'm screwed. So, what do you?
There's no easy answer. There's no easy answer.
There isn't. It's a weird time, man. Oh, by the way, there's a hurricane about to hit Florida too. Let's add that in the mix. Supposed to hit us Monday-ish.
It's just Florida.
Yeah, just
you guys will survive. I promise.
Just a normal week in Florida in the summer. Well, hey, good deal. I'm excited to talk about our guest tonight. Yes. She's a gamer, a self-acclaimed lore nerd, in quotes, and knows so much about the Destiny universe that would make your head spin. You can catch her and her co-host, Blue Crew 86, every week on the Focus Fire Chat podcast, which airs on Twitch most Fridays, not this Friday, at 10 p.m. Central, where they focus, no pun intended, on Destiny lore. Our new friend of the show, Grneyedmusiklvr. How you doing, Green?
I'm doing well. I'm a little shocked to hear about the whole thing going down in Florida. I have a little bit of an insight on that because I used to be a teacher. I used to teach in Kansas. So
really?
I cannot imagine the amount of stress that your wife is going through at the moment. That is insane.
Well, she's in the administrative part. She doesn't teach a class anymore. She's what they call a curriculum resource teacher.
Sure.
She basically is a gopher for everybody in the school. So her job's always changing. But yeah, it's she's just throwing her hands up going, I gotta work. They tell me to come into work. I gotta work. Yeah. And I'm at the other end going, hey, what if a little kid with a snotty nose, gets you? And this is an elementary school. These kids aren't exactly put together. I mean,
that's every kid under the age of like 8. Yeah. They're all going to have snotty noses. So it's like, what do you do? Like, I can't even, like, as a resource officer, essentially, is what it sounds like she's kind of doing, is she's just going from classroom to classroom. So, and I was a music teacher, so I had all the kids coming to my room. I'm just like, nope.
Well, we'll get into that. Yeah. Don't get too far ahead of me on now, Green.
Yeah, no good.
Thanks for that. I just want to give an overview of tonight's show. First, we want to find out more about Green's story, of course. Then she's going to try her luck at our new and improved Fast Fire segment we call the Speed Run. Following that, Hazel will bring us the latest news via the TWAB for this 8th week of Season of Arrivals. And then we're going to get, I guess you could say, a sample of Green's lore knowledge with a little introduction to Destiny lore for you listeners out there, say, who might not follow lore and Destiny too closely. Then finally, we'll answer questions from our community and add 2 songs each to our Guardian Downcast show playlist on Spotify and iTunes. All right, now I'm pumped. Let's do this. Well, Green, thank you again for coming on tonight. We're really excited.
Absolutely.
Well, let's start with this. We just want to kind of get generally to know what you're about. Where did you grow up?
I actually grew up in the Midwest. I am a Kansas girl by birth, and the town that I grew up within is a square mile, and I actually was quite fond of the farming community in Plains, Kansas, which is tiny, tiny speck of a community in Southwest Kansas, about an hour away from Dodge City, which is probably the only place that anybody's ever heard of in Kansas that would be close to where I'm from.
Wait a minute. Now, did I hear this correctly? The town is 1 square mile?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is small. That is small.
Yeah. My graduating class was at 27 kids.
Wow.
So real tiny.
Well, did you have a stoplight or a stop sign?
Yeah. Stop signs. Stoplight was in the town over.
That's big time.
It is. It is. And it was 1 stoplight. So yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. Where do you call home now? What state?
I'm in Colorado now.
Okay. Very nice. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of friends there. Good deal.
Yeah. Glad is there. Red Queen is there.
Elmer Fudd.
Oh, yeah. Fudd and I know where each other are. Fudd knows exactly where I'm at. I'm like, you punk.
I love that dude.
Oh, he's such a fun guy. I did a show with him once before where we did a game show, and it's just so crazy. Crazy guy, but he's fun.
Okay, I'll go next, I guess.
Yeah, that was me. That was me passing the ball off to you.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry there. All right. So, what was your childhood like?
That's a very interesting question to throw out, just because being from such a small town, I have a very different set of experiences than most people do, because in a small town where my high school was 2 towns combined to make the high school, and it was in the middle of a cornfield, quite literally. Like, we would actually, for track, we would go run along the dirt roads by cornfields and wheat fields and stuff like that. And growing up out there, because there were so few of us, we all did everything. I did everything from choir to band to basketball, track. I did volleyball for a year, drama, forensics, all sorts of different things. So I had a very diverse childhood, but it was also very you're a jack of all trades. You don't necessarily specialize in anything. So I've done a lot. I just may not be the best, quote unquote, in that one thing.
What instrument did you play in band?
I actually started out as a flautist, and then when I got to high school, I switched to saxophone and played sax all the way through college.
Yes, great instrument.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, very nice. What size saxes?
I've played all of them.
Nice.
I primarily stayed at alto, though.
I was a tenor guy.
Nice.
I played them all too. I even got passed on to try to play the bassoon, and that was a crash and burn. I'm not you have to blow twice as much air in that thing.
And you have like 18 thumb keys, so yeah.
Yeah, and you have to read in bass clef. Forgot to tell you that.
Yeah.
Not treble. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And this has been Saxcast. You're welcome.
Yes, you are. Hey, everybody, welcome to Saxcast. Hey, let me ask you this. What do you do for a living? You kind of alluded to it when we talked before the show, but I wanted all the listeners to hear it.
Yeah, so I've actually done quite a few things in my adult life. I've taught. I was a music teacher for 5 years in Kansas. And then when we moved to Colorado, I worked in finance for a year, dealing with 401ks. And now I actually work as a personal assistant to somebody who has quite a bit more money than I do. And she just needs a lot of help. And so I've actually am kind of on call all the time for her. Mm-hmm. And I mostly just work 4 hours a day, which is great. But yeah, it's not too bad. I do a lot of shopping, a lot of cleaning, a lot of organizing her own stuff for her, which works out real well.
So your life really is the same. You're a jack of all trades.
Yeah, it really is. It hasn't changed much.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So tell us about your family life. Are you married? Things like that.
I am. I have happily married for 5 years now. My wife and I have 2 fur babies, and that's about it. My sister's actually in town this weekend. She's hanging out with us, but mostly just my wife and I and a bunch of friends, and we just very, very tight-knit group up here when it comes to that.
That's awesome. Congratulations on being married for 5 years.
Yeah, congrats.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Well, let's go back in the past here, and we asked this of all our guests. What was your earliest moment in gaming? I mean, when did it all begin where it all clicked and said, oh, yeah, I definitely want to do this?
That's actually a very different time. So when it all clicked that I wanted to do this was a very different time than my very first moment in gaming.
Well, let's separate it then. That's a fair question.
So my very first memory in gaming was with an NES, or like the old Nintendo system, playing Duck Hunt. My grandpa had got it for us for Christmas when I was probably 7. And we played for a little bit there, and then he got a SNES. He got a Super Nintendo for a while, and we played a bit there. And I grew up with having a gaming system at his house. Spent a lot of time on that. But my brothers, I have 2 younger brothers and a younger sister. My brothers were very good at fighting games. And when we got a Nintendo 64, Killer Instinct was the game. My brothers beat the snot out of me over and over, and I actually swore off gaming for years. I didn't pick it back up until college.
That's kind of like us in the Crucible, right, Hazel?
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
So,
but like the moment that it came back, like I really wanted to do this again was with Oblivion, Elder Scrolls.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I sunk a lot of hours into that game.
I was just gonna say that's a very deep game. Yeah.
What was it about Oblivion that brought you back?
I was able to lose myself in the game. I'd never played a game like that. I grew up playing Super Mario World and volleyball, Aladdin, Lion King, Killer Instinct, like a couple racing games, and that was it. I didn't have a video game that allowed me to basically live through the game, and it really resonated with me at that time. I needed something to do while in college and not working at the time, so I kind of hooked into it. No, I was like that and Guitar Hero. Guitar Hero was another one that got me back into gaming.
Gosh, that's such a. I started with Guitar Hero, but Rock Band was my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
So
I used to actually go into Best Buy when they had the display for Guitar Hero, and Sweet Child of Mine I had memorized. So I would
nice.
play the game and watch people shop and just show off in Best Buy.
That's the best way to sell it. Everyone
Right?
sees you jamming to it, and they're like, "Oh my god, I want to get this."
Right? It was so much fun.
Well, when you mentioned Killer Instinct in those games, where did it go from there? Did you go? Were you a PlayStation child, or did you go the Xbox route or PC?
I played PlayStation in college on a friend's, but I went actually to Xbox 360.
Okay.
So I played Oblivion there. I played, like I said, Rock Band on there. I'm trying to think of some of the other games I had back then. I really have a bad habit of focusing on one game for a real long time.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But I was Xbox for years and years and years playing Borderlands there. I started Destiny there.
Nice.
And I didn't switch to PlayStation until about almost 2 years ago now. I switched over to PlayStation. I still have my Xbox and I still play there as well, but
Right.
I switched to PlayStation for Destiny 2 because I had played in a tournament, Crucible tournament, and I needed to be on the PlayStation side in order to participate because it was the, I think it was Dan Finity who threw it together, or Guardians Mental Health may have thrown it together. It was a Crucible tournament, a podcast, and they wanted Focus Fire Chat on there. And we have a bunch of people on Xbox, but they're not Crucible players. And the people who were volunteering to play were all on PlayStation. So I was like, all right, looks like I'm getting a PlayStation. I moved over there and I haven't quite moved back since.
That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so one question that we ask of everybody is, how did you find Destiny?
I got bullied into it. When I was teaching, I taught in a tiny, tiny town that's actually smaller than the town I grew up in. And my coworkers who were also teachers were gamers, and they really wanted somebody to raid with them. And they kept on me for months and months and months about this game, Destiny. Like, hey, I know you don't play shooter games. I mean, you kind of play Borderlands, but I think you really would like this. We need somebody else to run this with us. So I got bullied into buying Destiny, and it was during Dark Below is when I actually picked it up. I missed the vanilla. I missed Vault Glass and all of that.
Oh no.
And I dove right in with Oryx and swords and all those different things that happened back in Dark Below. And they, ironically, I don't think many of the people that I originally got bullied into playing it with play as much anymore, mainly due to like having families and children and stuff like that. But from there, I got really hooked into it with the actual lore once I started getting into that, and just really have kind of taken off in that direction.
Okay, well, since we're still on the Destiny topic and how you found Destiny, is there a moment from past games playing Destiny that really had an impact or definitely memorable if you were to think back?
The Taken King when Mara gets blown up at the beginning.
Oh yeah, great.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you have to agree that's probably the best outtake of all the game? Where they
That's
have
one of the
big space battle, and Aldrin's trying to escape with his life, and
it's definitely one of the best cinematics they've ever put out. There are a few others that are really high up there, but as far as drama, that one definitely, it's everything Destiny is. It's that space opera, essentially.
Yeah.
In a cinematic form. So
I was like, oh my God, how are they going to survive this? And then you kind of realize it was really ramping up. I mean, this is really getting serious.
Mm-hmm.
That's when Destiny 1 really took a turn.
I think so too. I think that's when it really, because if you remember, before that was House of Wolves, and everybody had basically started complaining about the game at that point, which granted, the community will do that. It comes and goes in waves, right?
Yeah.
But Taken King was the first big moment that everyone was like, oh, this could be a blockbuster. Like, it was a good game beforehand, but this could be a blockbuster story as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my favorite thing about Taken King was the one and simple fact that you went through the campaign solo or with anybody else and that kind of thing. And then it led to the boss fight in the raid.
Yep.
That was just like that's the way it should be all the time.
It was one of the better story-driven series, I think, as far as I don't know. It wasn't a season back then, but releases that they've done.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Gator.
No, I was just going to say it pretty much, that's the way. It's still a season. I mean, it was just not labeled a season, but the DLCs were basically seasons. They had three or four of them a year, just like we do seasons. But the best image I can remember from Taken King is watching orcs float into space.
Yeah.
Just the best
crystalline.
moment ever. That was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite memory though was the doors opening up, and when
yeah,
and there he is with his cape flying in the back of the wind and everything. It was just like, oh shit.
They did a vlog on that scene. Like they actually did a video log describing the inspiration for that, which was really cool because it was actually pulled from both Opera and Spawn, if I remember right.
I could see that. See that. Well, one of the questions is not here that I just thought of, so I'm sorry to spring this on you.
No, you're good.
But do you remember your first lore card that got you hooked?
Ooh, gosh, that one's actually quite difficult because there's been so many. I can tell you the first video that got me hooked because I did not know you can go and read the cards at first. I mean, I obviously from Grimoire and game, but I'm not somebody who's going to go to another app necessarily just automatically, which is one of the biggest complaints back in D1 is that you couldn't read the lore in game. But Sir Wallen was doing Destiny lore videos back then. And Wally did a video on, I believe Crota was the first time that I was like, oh, this guy's got a lot more history than what we're getting in game. Okay. So I started digging and I found not only Sir Wallen, but I found Mylan next. And then I found Bife. And I started watching all these videos and then started digging into the podcast and found Destiny Ghost Stories and then found FFC finally. Because I was not original member of FFC. I came in later. But the first story that I remember getting hooked into was the Crota story.
Nice. Well, let me tag on to that last comment. You mentioned you weren't in the lore community. What other communities were you a part of when you first got into Destiny? Did you solo it, or did you get into some groups or some communities?
I primarily soloed it. I was definitely not a PvP person. I played PvE solo by myself. I did have some friends who were raiders who wanted somebody to raid along with them. Right. So I would play with them every once in a while, but I didn't even really have a clan until probably my second year into Destiny. I played a lot solo.
Okay. I did too. I just like gaming by myself sometimes. It's just the way.
Oh yeah.
Everybody plays Destiny the way they want, At least we try to these days. Without having being forced to do things. Did you get your did you play Crucible to get your void kills to get that
oh god, Thorn?
The Thorn, yeah, in Destiny 1. That was
I went through it as a hunter. I went through it.
Oof.
You
should have given you 2 for that.
Right? Gosh. Yeah, I didn't really chase exotics back in the day because I didn't really understand the appeal of them because I was always playing PvE, so I didn't necessarily have to have a quick time to kill. I just needed something that worked, or I needed to be in a better place. So I was not very studious as far as a gamer within Destiny, especially my first couple of years. I really just shot things with whatever gun I tend to like at the time, and it wasn't necessarily the best gun. I wasn't I didn't search for the best god roll or anything like that. I didn't even understand the rolls for a real long time. But yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the game for what it was. I enjoyed the story, and I liked playing the story missions over and over, which was something that I really wish they would go back to. I miss playing the story missions. There's
Yeah.
so much content there that we don't get to touch anymore. And it's so frustrating.
You know, Destiny 1, everyone says they didn't understand the story. I followed it just fine. I thought it was a great story.
Yeah.
I'm probably in the minority, but Destiny 1, let's face it, Destiny 1 was a brand new mold as far as a video game. It was we were in totally different territory. I mean, I came from the Call of Duty community, so you can imagine the toxicity I came from.
Oh, yeah.
And, if you didn't play multiplayer, there was really nothing to do after you ran through the little mission they gave you that took, 7 or 8 hours to do? The story missions. So I swore off Crucible for, the first 2 years, and I played since beta. And I'm still kicking myself for not doing Iron Banner and all those great weapons they had those first 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
But then when they made me get those void kills to get my Thorn, it just clicked. Then it felt like, oh yeah, this Crucible could be something here. This could be really fun.
Yeah.
So it was just a whole other dimension of Destiny. So.
It really is. It was a unique weapon because, I mean, a poison tick. How many weapons do you see with that anymore? I mean, Borderlands did it, but Borderlands wasn't nearly as competitive as Destiny tends to be.
Yeah, it was more slapstick. It was more,
right.
And you just threw weapons away. If it wasn't the power level, you just tossed them away.
Exactly.
That's what really bugged me coming from Destiny into Borderlands 3. It was really hard for me to get rid of the weapons because I had this sonic gun that just shot sound waves. I was like, this is the best gun ever. Why would I want to throw this away? But then it gets so weak as you move into the story that it's really just, you can't use it. It was such a downer.
Yeah. It does that.
Wait, this was a Destiny podcast. Sorry.
Hey, I mean, it's a gaming podcast, right? Like, we can talk about other games because it all relates back to how we feel about Destiny. So,
well, Hazel will be busy again tonight because I will go off on tangents. He'll have to reel me back in. Go ahead, Hazel. You got another question?
Yeah, no, you're good, man. You're good. You're good. I still don't have a PlayStation 4 cable, so you're good. You're good. So, all right. So, Green, now this is one question that I added, and it's, do you feel like a celebrity?
No. I kind of this is one of the things that always gets me because I'm not. And that's a weird thing about being a community member in Destiny who's not a streamer. I don't stream very often. If I do, it's very infrequently. It's not a set schedule. The only thing I stream regularly is Focus Fire Chat. And I've been very blessed or lucky, I guess you could say, to be able to do some really cool things in the community. But I'm not Glad. I'm not Bife. I'm not even the Guardian Radio guys. Like, there's so many other bigger people in the community in my eyes that I'm just like, no, I'm just me. I will talk to you if you talk to me. I'm not going to be weird about it.
Well, that's what I was just saying. I mean, you were the most laid back person. I mean, we had a little pre-show DM room, I guess you could call it, and it was just so nice just to be able to just chill about music or whatever it was. Sorry, I threw all those music choices at you, by the way.
No, you're good.
And she's like, okay, enough with the music. We know you like music. Well, let me ask you this. You spoke of Focus Fire Chat. That's yours and Blue Crew 86's podcast. How did this first get started? How did this first come about?
So Blue was originally part of DoD back in the day.
Okay.
Blue was there. Justin Sane 0516 and Steaming Willie Beeman were the three original hosts of Focus Fire Chat. And they started it as a chat specifically to recap the discussions had in the DoD Discord from that from that week on lore, because they would get on these giant rants and the guys would get just these massive text of questions of like, hey, what are all these different things? So Blue and Justin and Willie decided they were going to just create a show on it. And they started doing it as a weekly thing. It was really infrequent at first, but it started becoming a little bit more established. And I want to say 2016 is when they started it in October. Okay. And then I came into being on the show on like episode 36 or 44, one of the two, as I was a guest host talking about Crota's End and the Crota Fire team.
And how many episodes do you have out now? I won't hold it to you exactly.
236.
Just a few.
We have more episodes that are not specifically Focus Fire Chat because we do other things on top of it, because we'll do extra lore where we talk about other games, or top 3 where we talk about kind of our top 3 list of like top 3 cookies or top 3 sodas and stuff like that. But
sure.
As far as core episodes, I think we're up in that 230 range. We're getting close to it if we're not there yet.
Well, we'll hope to get there one day. That's pretty awesome. Well, what is I know Hazel, you got one on deck. I have to follow this up. How did Focus Fire Chat? How did that podcast? How did that name get put together? Where was that inspired by?
I think it was inspired by the fact that Blue rambles. And Justin was there. Like, Justin used to derail Blue. Blue used to derail Justin. Or it was one of those things where they were just like, we need to focus kind of thing. And it just turned into Focus Fire Chat. I'm pretty sure it was a Blue creation at that point, as far as the name.
I thought it might have been maybe that perk you got on some auto rifles in Destiny 1 called Focus Fire.
I mean, it might have been that too.
No, I was just curious because that was my favorite perk in Destiny 1 was Focus Fire on auto rifles, and I never would have known that though.
So, how did you get on Focused Fire Chat? You said you were a guest host and that.
Yeah, I basically bullied my way on. It's a funny thing about the gaming community, whether it's like becoming a shoutcaster for like Overwatch League or being a community member as a Destiny member. The best way to get on and become more prominent is to do it. Like, I started doing show notes for Jay. I volunteered. Jay is Blue, by the way.
Okay.
I started volunteering in the background with FFC for a long, long time, doing his show notes, helping set up his Twitter account and running that basically in the background. And then it eventually started being where, hey, can you hop on? Somebody's going to be gone. And it's like, yeah, I would just kind of basically insert myself. Blue was very kind to ask me on as a permanent host about a year later after my first guest host, but it was definitely me putting myself in that position. So Tip to anybody who wants to be up there, do it. Just do it. Just not necessarily be a bully into it, but like volunteer. Yeah, be helpful. Volunteer, help people out. Yeah. That's the way to get up there.
Yeah, be persistent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, okay, I have this question. I created this question. My wife and I helped me word it so I wouldn't sound too crazy asking it, but lore writing. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about lore writing. It seems to be exceptionally descriptive. How do you read lore excerpts without getting bogged down in the details? Because when I read lore, I have to read it like 5 times. I have to know what the context of the conversation is first. It's almost like it's stage directions. It's really weird. Yeah. It's really strange. It's like they're trying to describe a play in a written form, and there's no video. And how do you deal with that? Because you guys read this week in and week out.
So it is very much so like reading a play. You don't necessarily know the purpose of the one card until you know the entire story, right? Like you don't see how it fits. So I start personally by I just read everything straight through. I don't get hooked on any one little thing or go searching for super crazy connections right away. I read the whole thing straight through, whether it's Books of Sorrow or Maracena or anything going on in the lore. And then from there, I pick key phrases and go back, and then I'll try to connect things together. But it takes a lot of like reading and rereading and then finding those connections. The longer you do lore or read lore, the more things start to click together, which makes it easier than when you first start because the catalog's so big now. But
that's great advice, because just read it through and don't get hooked on any words or directions.
Exactly.
That's great advice. Thank you for that. Because I got the 2 lore books that they put out, and they're putting out a 3rd one, which I pre-ordered, by the way. I never really got into lore. I'm guessing there's probably a lot of guys and gals out there that probably just play the game and don't really know the backstories behind all these characters. And reading those books just opened my eyes. And we're going to talk about one of those books tonight. And but before we have more questions first, how did you get to know Blue? I mean, were you introduced, or did you just game with him, or how did you run into him?
I started out with just being a fan of the show, and then got into the Discord server, participated in a lot of the conversations being had there. And from there, Jay and I have just been pretty close. We work really well together, even though we're very different personalities. He is a little bit more
flamboyant.
Kind of. No. I mean, he can be, but his personality is more to where he is very tangential. And I come from a very structured teaching perspective where I have a very concise answer for things, where he has such a depth of knowledge that he'll connect things that I've never heard of. He has huge background in mythology and psychology because he has a degree in psychology.
Oh, wow.
So he'll go into a lot more descriptive things than I've ever considered. Whereas even though I have a huge background in music and can talk for hours about the music of Destiny, I'm going to give you a fairly straightforward answer, and I'm going to stop because I don't want to overload you. So Blue and I got to know each other through me reining Blue in and Blue giving me the opportunity to speak a little bit more freely.
Very good. Well, music is very mathematical. It's very, very straightforward. There's not really much tangential things you can do with music. I mean, well, maybe you could. I mean, improv, yes, I get that. But as far as reading music, it's very mathematic. I mean, there's no real straying from it. But I get, that's why I kind of follow what you're saying about you have a music background, so that's very much like a mathematical skill, reading music. So,
you mentioned that you stream on Twitch infrequently. What do you think about streaming?
I prefer to be a anchor for somebody else's stream. I do enjoy streaming myself, but I'm such a Crucible nerd now that I prefer to not have to focus on a chat, and I will be in somebody else's stream. The person I tend to stream with most frequently is Issachel, the creator of Bad Destiny jokes and Shaq's Motivation.
Yes.
She and I are best friends. And so I'll stream and I'll do what's called anchoring for her. So I will basically carry the team while she's chatting with the chat and playing along aside.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's what I like to do. I'll converse with the chat as well, but I tend to be a little bit more focused while I'm streaming. I don't mind it. I do like performing because that's what it is. It's a performance, no matter how you chop it up. But it's one of those things that it is a very straining experience if you don't build up a tolerance to it. And I just haven't put in the time yet to really build up a tolerance for streaming and doing it well.
Well, I watched one of your videos on demand of one of your last. I don't even know if you have it out yet on audio podcast yet, so I won't spoil it. But your very last podcast was on a certain lore topic, and I was watching you because it looks like you guys just started doing face cams, and you look very intent. Your attention was very like laser focused, and that has to be intimidating knowing your face is on the screen the whole time. You know, it's you felt. I wouldn't say you felt uncomfortable, but you felt like you were lining things up. Blue was, he was going off and talking and what he needed to talk about, and you were like the architect. It looked like you could see the wheels spinning on your cam, and it looked like you were lining up the next conversation and next topic, and maybe that makes perfect sense that you kind of keep things structured in the show.
Yep. That's actually become more of my role as the show's gone on. It used to be where Blue and I would make the show notes, and Blue and I would trade off as we're going down the show notes, and we would have things highlighted for each other. But lately it's gotten to the point where Blue is the primary host, but I'm the one helping keep us on time. I run a stop clock in the background
Okay.
while I'm streaming, and so I have an eye on that. I'm running through the show notes, and I'm actually on the episode you're talking about. I'm literally moving show notes around to make things fit better.
That's
because
awesome.
we started jumping around a little bit in the show notes. So I was editing as we were going and making sure that everyone could have enough airtime together as well as get their conversation going. So I do a lot of on the fly editing and making sure everything runs smoothly in the background. So when you get the final episode and you actually are listening to it, it's very smooth. You don't hear a lot of like long pauses or anything because we do perform the show live. It's not a off-air recording.
Right. That's very impressive, Green. I don't know if Hazel right now started moving my show notes around, I would panic. I don't know how you do that.
Blue trusts me. That's how it happens. Blue trust when I'm moving things around that I'm getting it into an area where it's going to work.
That is amazing. That is amazing. That's an amazing skill.
That is awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to kind of take a detour here.
Sure.
So do you have any other hobbies other than gaming?
I play guitar. Guitar is kind of my secondary hobby right now. And then beyond that, I do like to work out. I have a lot of time outside with my job because I take care of a 75-pound golden doodle.
Oh, wow.
But
Nice.
yeah, it's just hiking. My wife and I are actually avid hikers, and we're going to take my sister up to almost 13,000 feet on Monday.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I like to be outdoors quite a bit. So outdoors, I still play music. I primarily play guitar because it's a little quieter than my saxophone, but
Yeah, a little bit quieter. And you could put it in an amp and just put headphones on.
yeah, absolutely.
Play to yourself, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hobby of mine, but I haven't been honing it lately. I've got a Celebrity Ovation, and I love that guitar. I just don't know how to use it well enough yet to play it for anybody.
Yeah, I still don't think I'm very good. I do certain things better than others. Like I would prefer not to use a pick. I'm terrible at strumming.
Yeah.
You mentioned Dan Finity, I think before we started the recording, that Dan has actually made a playlist for me on Spotify that's Marley's guitar or Green's guitar playlist.
Awesome.
Where he's suggested songs for me to learn. So.
That's so cool. Yeah, he I love his band. He has great music too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably my turn. Yeah. I'm sorry to come back to the show because I had some questions I still had unanswered. I know Hazel was trying to steer me away, but I'm going to paddle back now. I'm just curious what piqued your interest in Destiny lore. I mean, it's such a deep topic. I know you talked about how you got onto the Focus Fire chat and stuff, but were you really into lore before that? Or did it become a hobby as you were getting into the show?
I think it's more the second one. The more I got into the show, because I had interest within the game, I wanted some of my questions answered. So I started digging into them. But the more I got into the show, the more the world kind of opened up because there are topics that I would not have naturally kind of gravitated towards. Osiris is one of them. A lot of people like Osiris. Blue has a mind map on MindMaster that has broken that website a few times because of how much he loves Osiris. But
is he a warlock?
No, we're both
Really?
hunters.
What?
He just loves that character. I don't understand.
He is. Ikora Ray's even more fascinating, but
yeah,
I like Osiris too. Well, I'm a warlock, so it makes sense.
Nice. Yeah, Ikora's got some really funny backstories, like the fact that Shax can't sit down because of her.
Did you see that? Did you see that meme where she says, "If anybody asks if I'm a Ikora Ray, you're gonna get popped" or something? I can't remember. It was. You had to see it, I guess. My last question about the show, and then I swear, Hazel, we'll start going the other direction. You guys are now part of a network, a podcasting network called the Robot Network. What are the advantages of getting into a network, and are there some things that you really like about it? Or are you guys just testing it out right now?
So Blue and I had actually started thinking about developing our own network We have one called the Lore Network, which is primarily Destiny driven right now. It's a website where we're getting a bunch of people from different videos and podcasts and stuff like that, all kind of in there, because lore is not something necessarily you can just look up online and be like, I just want to learn about lore today. And most people have like a specific game or genre they're going to go into, like Tolkien or even Destiny itself. But we started collecting the people who are in the lore community who are not necessarily those top names. Now we do have like Byf and Mylan on there, but we found a few guys from England who are not necessarily big streamers or anything like that, but we've kind of started collecting them together and providing the community access to them alongside of Byf and Mylan and stuff like that to help garner their viewership and show a different opinion. Because one of the weird things that's happened over the years is that our community has narrowed so much that you get the same opinions over and over again. So it's nice to hear fresh voices and new takes on certain things, because a lot of Destiny lore is up for interpretation.
That's what I love about your show. I could just sit there and listen to it and hear your take on what this means. Because like I said, the descriptive writing, you could take it so many different ways. And having someone, it's like you're sitting around a circle at a campfire and everyone's just talking about, what did you think about this when he said this? What did he mean by that? And that just fascinates me. I can't get enough of it. It's really interesting stuff.
Right. But, so the nice thing about Robot Radio is that this network itself is actually built up of a bunch of different games. There's podcast from Fallout. There's podcast for Oblivion and Elder Scrolls in general. There's just a bunch of different games that wouldn't necessarily have the same communities that are working together. And the benefit of it, beyond just the network, Tom, he's awesome. He's kind of our point man for it. He will actually listen and provide content.
Feedback?
What is it? Feedback. Thank you. Feedback for us about how to improve our show.
Very nice.
And then the other thing is we actually play ads now in our audio format, not during our live show, but we will play ads from other shows. So communities who are not necessarily part of ours will get some of our people going over there, because people like Penn's Halo, a very prominent member in our community. He is a very huge Halo fan, as you can probably guess from his name.
Sure.
But he doesn't necessarily want to gravitate towards some of these other things, but he might start doing that just out of curiosity. So it's a way to help cross-pollinate, is a way that I've heard it phrased that I think is quite poetic, of getting other people to kind of get exposure to our show and to our fans to get exposure to their shows.
Okay. Fair enough. Thank you. I was just curious.
Yeah.
That's a kind of like a really cool idea. I like that. All right. Sorry, you mentioned this mind map thing, and I just actually looked it up. And
are you on Google?
No, not on that. I'm on MindMeister. And I don't even know what in the hell I'm looking at, but this is fantastic and absolutely fascinating. And I'm just kind of like clicking around on here, like, oh, well, what the hell is this? And I'm like, there's so much lore.
Yeah. So when we started doing some of the show notes a little bit more tidy and everything, I started creating mind maps for him, because it's the old, do you remember back in high school when you had to do webbing for a paper?
Right. That's
what it is. It's your webbing on a digital format. And by doing that, I was able to start drawing connections from different lore cards to each other or different characters. Say, for example, Eva Levante has connections to multiple different characters. So I could have theoretically a mind map of just Eva and just connect her to Ikora, connect her to Tess Eververse, connect her to Devram specifically. Like, you can see how they're connected a little bit better and all their different details underneath there.
Wow. This thing is fascinating. I mean, All right. Okay. I'm like 85% sold on lore now. Okay.
Hazel, I was home all day today waiting for or babysitting our countertop guys. I couldn't work today, and I got sucked down so many rabbit holes on the internet. I got up and walked around. I'm like, what did I even do today? So don't fall too deep in there, brother. You might not come out.
Well, for anybody who looks it up, the Meister, I'm guessing, I don't know. But check this out. This is fascinating. I got to get back on track. All right.
No, you're good.
So, all right. Do you have a motto or mantra that you live by?
No worries. Which is as simple as you can get, right? Like, I grew up in an area where everyone was very proper, even though it was a very small farming community. But I learned through college that I used to be very, very, very uptight. And I developed a sense finally through college and through enough turmoil in my life that everything is either fixable or adaptable. So why worry about it in the immediate sense? Don't stress yourself out over it. So I think if I were to say I have a motto, it would be that.
Okay. I like that. That's something I need to follow. Well, I ask every guest of this, and you know what's coming, Hazel. Green.
Nope.
What's up with the gamer tag?
So I told you I was not a gamer for many years, right?
Okay.
I did not understand what the gamer tag culture looked like because I did not play at all until college and having my own gamer tag. So I was just like, okay, I do have green eyes and Musiklvr. The music is actually spelled with a K, which is a German spelling.
Okay.
Which is a kind of a nod to my heritage. And then everybody that I knew at the time was just like, just make up a name and leave out vowels. Like, that's what everybody does. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I went to the local mall, and you know how they have the kiosk for the license plate? I had to make up a license plate with the gamer tag, and that was my that became my gamer tag for years and years. It's funny because I've had a lot of people mess up my gamer tags over the years.
I can see why. It's a long one.
It is. Most notably, Gathalion was the funniest one.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I was Grneyedmusiklvr.
Grneyedmusiklvr.
Like, okay, God.
I could see that. that. Yeah. All right. That's awesome. Hazel, we're running short on time here, so why don't you pick one out of the bunch there that's left, and I'll pick one, and we'll move on.
Okay. All right. So, okay, since you are a green-eyed music lover, what's the last song that you listened to today, outside of the playlist things?
The last song I listened to today was All Part of the Plan by Michael Salvatore from The Taken King.
Nice. That was the quickest response ever. You usually stop people on that one.
I actually just had to pull up Spotify. It's just...
Well, this is another one I ask of almost every guest. Mm-hmm. What is one thing about you that no one knows? When I say no one, I mean like the gaming community, not your wife, but something, that, and it could be big or small. Doesn't have to be anything serious. Mm-hmm. What's one thing no one knows about you? The
fact that my grandmother's death when I was 7 basically changed everything in my life from then on. She was a very, very important person in my life.
You say changed. How did it change?
I was definitely very much so I guess you can call a grandma's girl. Okay. I did everything with my grandmother. And so when she died of cancer when I was very, very young, I turned much more introspective. I stopped viewing the world as kind of an just a plaything, and then became a lot more introspective about everything around me. So she definitely, she's kind of been my focal point for a lot of major things. Like when I would get on stage to perform, whether it was saxophone or singing, I would basically like do a focus and kind of not necessarily give it up to her, but be like, I hope I make you proud with this still. So she is definitely kind of my, my rock that I lean on a lot more often than others.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that. I know it was a little deep, but we get all kinds of range of answers.
Sure.
Thank you for that. That was very personal. Well, again, thank you, Green, for sharing your life with us. This is what we do. We love to hear about people's stories, and hopefully we've given everyone here a good representative sample of who you are. And I think, Hazel, it's time for that speed run.
I believe so.
All right. We'll do that right after this.
Call the Praxic Order, call the Thanatonauts, the Jinsen Scribes, call everyone so they can witness you.
All right, boys and girls, this segment is called the Speed Run. This is where we have a database of over 125 randomly asked questions, and Green here is going to have 60 seconds to answer as many as she can. These are short, 1 or 2 word answers, and we're going to keep track of how many questions were answered by our featured guests in each episode. The questions are randomly asked, so no one can memorize the order and just answer quickly whatever comes to mind. At the end of the year, the guest with the most questions answered will win a cool prize. Tonight, I'm going to ask the questions usually from my list. Hazel is our timekeeper and quality control expert. In the event of a questionable answer, Hazel's decision will be final. Sin and Kingsley Mack are still the leaders at 26. So, Green, you ready?
Do it.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Warlock, Titan, or Hunter?
Hunter.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Human, Awoken, or Exo?
Awoken.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Eris Morn or Marasav?
Eris Morn.
Who is your favorite music artist?
Bishop Briggs.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars.
What's the worst job you've ever had?
Finance.
Anna Bray or Ada 1?
Anna.
Where is your ideal vacation?
Mountains.
Is Telesto the besto?
No.
What was your first music album?
Kid Rock.
What is your favorite Destiny planet?
Io.
Do you believe in ghosts?
No.
Void, Solar, or Arc?
Void.
Pulse, Auto, or Scout Rifle?
Scout.
Drifter, is he evil? Yes or no?
No.
DC or Marvel?
DC.
What was your first video game?
Super Mario Brother World.
What is your favorite Destiny exotic?
Time.
I think we know what that answer is going to be.
She can answer it, but yeah.
Le Monarch.
That's what I thought.
Uh-huh.
Very nice. No, that's respectable. Very good. You thought out the answers and had fun with it. I love it.
I loved it.
Well, Hazel, how'd she do?
I don't know if I counted the last one twice or not, but I have 21.
Not too bad.
Not bad at all. Very good. Well,
Yep.
Good deal. I just want to remind everybody that we have decided to keep the channel labeled Speedrun Question Ideas in our Discord permanently. So if you have a great speedrun question for next year, add them there. I did want to announce that we are going to have a drawing at the end of the year. For all the entries that are put in there, we'll be giving away a $25 gift card. Just our little way of saying thank you for listening and participating in our content. Again, the channel in our Discord is called Speedrun Question Ideas. Remember, they need to be short answers, either yes or no, 1 or 2 words. If you enter more than one, we'll take your top 5, and we'll put them all in the drawing. So good luck. All right. I believe it is time to talk about This Week at Bungie. All right, Hazel, This Week at Bungie, what do we got?
All right. I'm gonna have to take my time and go through this piece by piece.
All right.
So 1 second.
Take it slow.
Iron Banner's back, and there's going to be a new update next Tuesday. And they also released a behind the scenes on the Prophecy dungeon that's actually not that damn bad. And that's pretty much everything in the TWAB.
Would you call that the fastest TWAB in the West?
I don't know. I mean,
Well, to quote
Zan,
Xanafan 711.
yeah, no, it's still not as fast as theirs, but because I had to take the breath, you know.
And then I cut you off at the end. Sorry, man.
Yeah, so fail.
There is that. You want to take?
Hey.
You want to take it again? I can take it again if you want.
Nah, it's all right. We'll let you know.
Sorry,
Bad have it. We'll let
Okay.
We'll let them have that. They still win.
Okay.
All right. Well, so that's everything with the TWAB. So Green. So since everything has come out, I mean, like I mentioned last week, actually, is that I guess that a lot more people are standing up. A lot more women are standing up and saying and calling out behavior that shouldn't be going on and things along those lines, not just in Destiny, but in like various other games. Like I was blown away to find out that Super Smash Brothers had this terrible, I guess, culture as well. I just you never think about it with Nintendo, I guess. But yeah, so keeping that in mind here, what are your experiences, and have you had any bad experiences? I hope not. But
my personal bad experiences have not directly related to gaming, luckily. But as far as we're talking specifically about the women in the communities being being made to feel uncomfortable or beyond, right? Like that's where we're kind of heading with that.
Yes, exactly.
There's a fine line that everybody tends to stay close to and try not to toe over, in that women who speak out should be believed. That is absolutely how I feel. But there's also that fine line of, we do not want to become a culture of cancellation. Like, we don't want to cancel everybody who has something that comes out about them. And that it's an unfortunate thing that's kind of happened in a lot of different gaming communities. There should be repercussions, but it's like, how do you manage that? And with being a female gamer in particular, there are certain games that I will never ever pick up because of the toxicity that I've experienced in there. And unfortunately, I think the worst one that I ever experienced was I played on my brother's console once in college, and he was playing Call of Duty, and I got on comms once, and that's all it took. Because you have an unfortunate culture where it's acceptable to either call somebody a tweak or to go even deeper and be just completely like, she can't play, like she's not going to be able to do anything, I don't know what you're talking about. And there's unfortunately a real reality where a lot of women will not ever go on voice comm because of that, because of, you still see it in raid groups. Like if a female goes in and is LFG'd into a group and the group finds out it's a girl, they tend to, some groups, not all, some groups will be a little derogatory because they don't think she could hack it or anything like that. And it's slowly changing. I do think it's changing for the better, but it's one of those things where everybody has to kind of work towards it together.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that leads me into my question about this is, what can we do as male gamers, since it seems to be a male-dominated community? All gaming communities seem to be that way. What is there something we can do, just to say in the Destiny community, to maybe enrich things or maybe to help change things in the right direction?
I mean, there's always the aspect of including more women in things, right? Like, but how do you include more women if they don't feel welcome, right? Yeah. And so you have to really, for me personally, it's just like reaching out and being open to women possibly stepping up and being like, hey, I'd like to talk about this, because there are plenty of really awesome female streamers or even transgender streamers. Like Katie Cat is a great example. Like she is and I don't know if you guys curse on your show or not.
Yeah, so it's explicit. It's explicit.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. She is a badass. And being inclusive doesn't mean giving them special rights or special anything. It's literally being like, you want to play? All right, let's go. And just including them as one of the quote unquote, one of the guys. Right. I know as many girls who are just as badass and able to kick your ass in Crucible as any of the guys. Like in my personal group, I am the top PvPer.
Nice.
Yeah. And I play with Issacle. I play with a couple different guys, and I've helped teach people. It's just really, it's like, women are able to do it. It's not like we need a pedestal to be held up on. It's literally just make space for them to come in.
Right. Make them feel welcome at least.
Exactly.
Yeah. See, here's the fine line. I'm gonna get personal here.
Sure.
I have a lot of friends that are female,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a problem of treating them too much like a buddy. And
Yeah.
I try, and I think in a way, a lot of my female gamers friends, they tend to have to act more like a guy, it seems, and more like a hardcore gamer type. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting right up to that line, and I don't want to say anything that's too derogatory, or because let's face it, as guy gamers, we knock on each other all the time.
Oh, sure.
And that's just the culture. I mean, me and Warcry go at each other all day playing Crucible. But if, say, another one of my gaming friends was in there that's female, if I started knocking on her, I would have second thoughts about even saying anything. So it's a really hard thing for me to. I was thinking about this when we were talking about this question here.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about, how do I handle this, or how do I just offline just ask them if it's okay, or I don't know. What is your opinion on this?
First, I want to ask you, what do you mean by knocking on them? Are you meaning being
okay, I'll
trash
say,
talk
hey,
a little bit?
Yeah,
or?
like, hey, dumbass, try aiming your weapon this time, okay?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's definitely a very personal. It depends on the relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like a borderline.
I get
right.
that.
But as far as like trying to figure out where that line is, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to be like, "Are you okay with like a little bit of needling? Like, can I give you crap for throwing a grenade randomly over my head when you could have easily put it at my feet?" Like, it at least broach the subject. It's not necessarily when you start like needling each other as guys, right? Like you don't. You guys know, obviously it's for fun and it's part of like just the playfulness of the game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And women sometimes do tend to take things a little bit harder.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that we can't enjoy a little bit of needling. Like I give people shit all the time. And I tend to teach while I'm playing if I'm in the same party chat with them. It's just like,
sarcasm, I bet.
A little bit.
I can picture it. I can picture it.
So, I mean, there's different types of needling. It may not be the same kind that you do with your buddies, but definitely broach the subject with them before you start being like, girl, you could have done way better than that. Like, you could have had my head. What the fuck were you thinking? Like, what were you doing over there?
I know. I'm thinking of one female gamer that'll dish it right back to me without even blinking.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I guess it just depends on the individual relationship, I guess.
It really does.
Okay.
It really does.
Cool.
Nice. I like that.
Talking about our main discussion tonight, I did want to get into lore, but before we do, I was just curious, Green. What do you think about Season of Arrivals? What's your general feeling about it? And is there anything you wanted to point out that you maybe don't like or do like?
Well, I can tell you I like not having to throw balls at a tower. I mean, kidding aside with that, but God, that was so rough. That public event. I like how they've moved to public events that are a little bit more story driven. That has been cool.
Yeah.
I think Season of Arrival, they finally hit it on the head. I do like the public events. Sans the stupid night ones where the two nights you have to get close together.
Yes.
That one can burn in a fiery pit of hell.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my God, blueberries. But I think the missions have been good. The missions are more lore driven than they are visually driven, which is, I mean, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But as far as like I think there's a lot more tension building that is being better done this season than there was last season, because last season you had the whole thing with the Almighty, right? The Almighty shows up in week 1 and then the entire season happens and then the conclusion, and there was nothing in between besides building the Warmind towers. And so we didn't see that story progress except through our own actions. You didn't see any conflict building, and it drove me insane because it felt very disjunct. This season, with us dealing with the Taken on a weekly basis and going in to do missions, even if it is the same basic mission over and over again, it still feels like we're progressing a little bit further each time.
Yeah, it does.
You're getting that new lore entry every week. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, lore aside, it's just, it feels more like we have something worthwhile to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a knucklehead that said, "Oh yeah, we're gonna go on the Almighty. I saw a video of Guardians running through the Almighty. I said, I'm telling you, end of the season, it's gonna be great. We're gonna go on the Almighty and we're gonna sabotage it, and it's gonna direct course away." And what was I wrong?
Yeah,
it was a dud of a season for me.
Technologically, like, the concept of what they did was really freaking cool.
Yeah.
And it came across really well once it started. Like, once you actually got it started. The sitting around in the tower for a long time, I understand why they chose that. And I get why the community was like, oh my God, I'm so bored, I want to do something, because that event was very passive. It was literally us just watching it.
Yeah, it was. And it took forever.
It did. I get it, considering how many thousands of miles those Aurora knives had to travel, essentially, to make that work. Yeah. But it was a little, from a storytelling perspective, it was a little flat.
I mean, once the final scene came, it was amazing. My mouth was agape. I mean, it was on the ground. I couldn't believe that Almighty was soaring over the tower, and I was running to the other side of the tower to see where it was going to land and blow up, and that was awesome. Bungie, A+.
Oh yeah, the radio tower that got blown up. I had a friend sitting on top of it.
I was right next to it. And I just turned around. Cool. I just turned around and said, "Whoa, wait a minute! I didn't remember seeing that." Well, I was looking at the Almighty. I didn't even see it blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I wish this is a gripe on our community, not necessarily Bungie. I really dislike a lot of the data miners, because that bit where the radio tower area got blown up, that was teased way before the event happened. And it's just like, God blast it. Why are you guys ruining these moments for them? Because it is a really cool moment to see. And it just kind of took a little bit of wind out of their sails.
Yeah, ever since they went on PC, it's so much easier to find those files now.
Yeah, it really is. It makes things like what I'm doing in the background a little bit easier, but I would rather things get told the way they should be than stealing things ahead of time.
Yeah. What do you think about the Umbral Ingrams and the farming and the way you can the process, to upgrade the what do they call that machine? The
decoder.
Decoder, yes, thank you. What do you think about all that? It's kind of similar to the last season where you're trying to upgrade the bunkers in there. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same row by row thing.
Right. It's the same unlocking process. I like the recaster a lot. I think that's very clever, because it's essentially taking what they learned in Menagerie with the chalice, as well as like trying to collect loot, because that's what we like, right? We want loot. And lordy, do we have it this season. We have so many Umbral Engrams. Like, I am flooded in my Postmaster half the time with those stupid things. And it's great because we get to be like, okay, I have this much of the essence. I want to roll for a god roll of gnawing hunger.
Right.
And so I can just put everything into that. And I still haven't gotten the roll I want but it's taking away that RNG just a tiny bit.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think is nice. Do I want it necessarily in a kiosk? Yeah, take it or leave it. It's not particularly one way or the other for me, but I do like the ability to focus down things at a cost. I understand it's at a cost, but it feels like we have a little bit more say in what we're getting this season, which is great.
I like that it's directed as well. These altered energy fragments that we're picking up, that is basically the currency for the second and third row, more finely tuned farming. Do you think we'll be piling it up at the end of the season, or do you think it'll just go away like the last season's material?
I think it'll go away.
So spend
the
it.
other thing,
So spend it while you got it, guys.
yeah, basically. The other thing that I would say is that I wish their bottom row, when you have like the mobility focused or discipline focused, I really wish that was a little bit more
Exaggerated.
Yeah,
I know.
because
I'm thinking the
it's
same
driving. It's like it's not even worth doing the bottom row in my mind because I have roles that are a lot more mobility focused. Because I mean, as a hunter, I want mobility because I want my invisibility back every 9 seconds. But I really wish they would have turned that up to be just a tiny bit more on the exaggerated side because right now it's just literally maybe 1 or 2 points more in that one section than something else, and it doesn't feel worth it there.
Yeah, I quit buying that stuff about 2 weeks ago. Once I realized they just added 10 to the stat instead of 6, it was 16. I'm like, well, that doesn't really help me, you know. And then the overall rolls weren't crazy. They weren't like 65 rolls or anything. They were, 59 rolls. They weren't anything super. So, yeah.
The nice thing though is that your season pass is going to get you mid 60 rolls.
Yes.
It may not be in the stat that you want, but you're going to always have at least a chance through the season pass, which I think is smart because it puts the focus on playing the game. Doesn't matter how you're playing it, whether you're playing raids or you're playing Crucible. If you play the game enough, you're going to get decent rolls and something.
Right. Consistency. Yeah. Just log in every week and get some umbrals cashed in. Yeah. Makes sense. What do you, since you are a Crucible player, very curious question here, and I think Hazel knows where I'm going to go with this. What do you think about the new connection-based matchmaking system?
What I really wonder is if the connection-based matchmaking system is actually the problem right now, or if it's the servers, because it's real janky. Now, the game feels really weird right now.
As far as getting grouped with against other players?
That part doesn't feel bad. Like, I don't mind having matches where there's blowouts and matches where there's not. Like, that doesn't bother me as much. I enjoy having the pub stomp night. Okay. Like, right now, honestly, if you're a solo player, it probably sucks. But if you're going in with any sort of maybe a 4 stack, even a 3 stack, you can do some pretty good damage on another team. But the thing that's been bothering me lately is it feels like the connections are a little bit, I know it's connection based. They say it's connection based, but it feels like the hit registration is not nearly as clean as it used to be. And it feels very weird. Like there are things that I don't know if it's lag going on or what's going on for sure, but Crucible feels very odd when there's especially anything with a poison tick or Wither Horde or Hard Light. Anything that has multiple instances within that frame, because you have multiple, not just the single bullet, you have multiple ticks going on for various reasons. That seems to cause a lot of extra bog down in a Crucible match.
Yeah, I play mainly on PC solo and with a controller. And the problem I've had a couple times where I just die. Through a wall, just die. I'm like, what happened there? I just flattened on the ground and died, and I don't know how it happened. I can't explain it.
Yeah.
Definitely some weird stuff going on, and with all the hacking and stuff going on now, you just have to kind of wonder if that's part of it. I don't know.
I will say PC does feel better to me. Like I played a PC match earlier today with a controller. It felt better to me there than it has been on PS4. I haven't played on Xbox, so I couldn't tell you that one, but it does feel a little easier on PC right now. Not necessarily easier, but it doesn't feel it feels like frames are almost dropping or frames are getting missed someplace and it's not getting registered. Okay. It's just very weird.
When you have less frames to work with too versus PC. If you're playing at 60 versus 30, yeah. Yeah. Well, Hazel, you were just telling me the other day you were on PS4, I believe, and you were asking me, hey, is Crucible taking forever for you to match up?
Yeah, it took me probably, I want to say maybe 8 minutes to find a game.
8 minutes?
Yeah, and I was solo.
Wow. And that happens a lot now.
Yeah. Yeah, it was painful. I was just like, okay, well, okay. I played a couple games, and then I was just like, all right, I'm going to go play Warzone. And then I did that. That was basically it. I'm just like, okay, well, at least I can get into a game pretty quick here.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I would bet you that the population has continued to drop.
Yeah.
Which has made it, when we had the skill-based matchmaking and the population dropped, it made it even worse. It exasperated it. And then the population continued to drop with the connection-based. And now we're starting to get back to some of the same problems we had with skill-based, with the long loading times and things feeling a little bit weird because you're not connecting completely with somebody else. But
do you agree with Iron Banner being connection-based and not skill-based?
I don't. I really wish it was skill-based because I feel like I said, I run in with a group, and
Right.
Iron Banner is a ton of fun, but it also feels a little unfair sometimes when it's connection-based and not skill-based.
Nah.
Just a little.
I've got a couple of videos. I think my match lasted about 3 minutes.
Right? Like I have pulled a 10 KD in an Iron Banner match. Like, I should not be able to do that.
I had a guy against me, 34 KD.
Yeah, that's insane. Like, you should not have those kind of outliers.
That's Call of Duty numbers.
Yeah.
I was just curious because I'll give you my opinion. I hate connection based. I think it should be I love skill based because I like sweaty matches. I just like trying to get better. I'm always trying to improve.
Yeah.
And hey, let's face it, skill-based matchmaking protected those groups that maybe aren't quite fit Crucible players that play all the time. And
yeah, that's me.
Now it's the Wild West. It's like, you see a 4-stack on the other side and you see the clans they're in, you're like, oh, this is going to be quick. And literally, they're literally running from spawn to spawn. They can't kill people fast enough. And that's just no fun. That's why the numbers are going down. No one wants to get no one wants, someone standing on their neck and just beating the hell out of them. There's no fun in that. And I say this last week and I'll say it again. How the hell am I supposed to improve when there's 3 guns pointing at me as soon as I spawn in? Just curious.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think that the skill-based matchmaking is not a bad thing. I know people bitch about it, but it's the simple fact that by putting them in at least tiers, like it doesn't have to be your exact tier. You could have maybe a tier above and a tier below. Fine, whatever. Or have ranked matches. Like, why don't we have ranked matches in Destiny? Like, Overwatch point. Does it.
Yep.
Halo does it. Like, why can't we do it?
Good point. I mean, and why not? If they can't do that, why not they just mix a little bit of both? Maybe have 60% of it skill based, and then 40% of it connection based. I mean, then at least you're gonna. I don't know. Maybe it's gonna have the same result where you either get beat to death or you run over the team. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, I've had games where I'll run with 2. I do a lot of solo. At the beginning of the week, I'll record 4 games on YouTube and I post it in my YouTube channel, and I do it raw. If I get my ass kicked, it still goes in. And there were some games I just shook my head. I was like, what was I supposed to do here? I look, I'm the type of will go back and watch my matches.
Yeah, to learn.
And I'll say, okay, what could I have done here to improve? And there's nothing I could have done. They literally were running from spawn to spawn. They were literally chasing the spawns, and my team just was like butter. They just rolled over them, and it was just you want to leave, but then again, you want to get your pinnacle right for the week.
Yeah.
So it's like, what do you do? Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna stay on that topic forever.
At least it's a quick loss. Look at the bright side.
That's true.
But
that's true.
The other thing, though, is that I honestly feel that, I mean, since Bungie pushed out basically they delayed Beyond Light, it lessened the urgency to get everything done. And I think that also kind of made people step back a little bit and go like, okay, well, you know what? I've got an extra, 6 weeks here, so I'm going to go ahead and play something else for a little bit. And for the love of God, if Gator says this is week 9 of Season of Arrivals or week 10 of Season of Arrivals, when he gets to like week 20, I'm going to just murder him.
Why?
But
I'm just being accurate. I mean, well,
like it's just too long.
Well, how are you doing on your moments of triumph? That was my next question. Are you getting your raids done, Green, or are you in a hurry to do it, or?
I haven't done a whole lot of raiding. I don't really have a raid team anymore since I've definitely gone more towards the PvP focus. I do have my t-shirt and I have that done. I don't think I'm going to go for the pen necessarily. I actually am trying to clean up some of the older pens just to get them knocked out. Like anything related to Io or Mars, I need one. God, I need the I'm trying to think of the Mars Nightfall.
18 cal. Oh, the launcher.
Yeah, I need the launcher. That's the only thing I need left.
I gotta give a shout out while I'm thinking about this, otherwise I'll forget.
Yeah,
Bytord finally got his Wayfarer. He'd only been working on this for like a year and a half.
Yeah,
and he had to get he needed the 18 kelvins, the sidearm. He did. He finally was working with some of our clan members, and he finally got the launcher. And what do you do when you get the launcher? Like, okay, check, delete. I mean, what are you going to do with it? You know, it's just a launcher. There's not really anything spectacular about it. But congrats, Ron. Congrats, Bytord, for getting that done. He sent it to me just a couple days ago, and he was just complaining how he was never going to get that 18 kelvins. And that it was going to disappear, and that Mars was going away. He wouldn't be able to finish that Wayfarer title, and I'm so glad he got it done. So, anything else you wanted to mention, Hazel, before we move on?
No, I'm anxious to dive into some lore stuff.
All right, then let's do that. Before we get into a lore reading, I wanted to hear Green's take on Destiny 1 lore, because I'll just give you my background with it. When I would find a ghost and the little Grimoire score, little banner at the bottom would pop up in Destiny 1, it was great and all. I was all about, if it's a score, I want to keep adding to my score, right? I want to be able to have that emblem where I can show off my Grimoire score. But other than that, you had to go to the website to even read the cards. And then to boot, the cards aren't in order. So you're reading something out of context and you don't know how the hell it connects with Fallen 1, how does it connect with Fallen 4, or Titan 3? What's your take on Destiny 1 lore?
So a lot of the numbered entries like Human 1, Human 4, Human 5, all those different things are actually related to different story arcs, a lot of the times related to where you got them or when you got them, not necessarily connected together. So the human cards in particular are a really good example because those mostly being the operative word there, relate to the Ares 1 mission, which is the very first cutscene in the Destiny franchise. When you go to, you see the cutscene on Mars and you see the astronauts get down and they have the weapons and they're marching towards the Traveler before you hear our speaker or ghost, I can't even remember who it was at the time, start talking.
It was a speaker.
Yeah, so that opening scene is the Ares 1 mission. A lot of the human cards relate specifically to that because they're all human there.
I see.
Because you don't get any Awoken necessarily or even Exos until after the Traveler becomes a thing in our area. Beyond like this, as far as the Grimoire back then, it was a lot of world developing. It wasn't very linear in any way, shape, or form, but the lore in D1 is very rich, but it's not cohesive. And I think that's what you're getting at, is that it doesn't make sense together. And there's a ton of stuff back there that have been called back to for our current things in game. Like there was a card, there was entries relating to Petra back in the day that helped explain where she's going to end up in Forsaken. There are entries that relate to not just Oryx, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about Books of Sorrow coming up, but also his sisters and who they are, because we don't even hear about the sisters at all in D1.
No.
Nobody knows anything about Zabathun and Xivu Arath until D2, and we still don't know much about Xivu Arath in game because I think there's maybe 2 or 3 enemies with names tied to her.
Yes.
That's it. So the lore is there to help flesh out the world. D1, as the main story arc, they had this idea of where the story was going to go. And then it seemed like because there's so many different writers working on it, it got piecemealed together of like, okay, this is where we want to go as a design team, and how do we make the lore fit it for a little while.
That's what it felt like. It felt like
Yeah.
several different people were writing 2 different stories or 3 different stories.
Well, the team does write a lot of different stories going on there. I think one of the most famous stories in the lore right now is the story about Thorn and the Last Word, which
that
Grneyedmusiklvr.
was in the anthology series 2, I believe.
So you have the Grneyedmusiklvr story, and we got Grneyedmusiklvr's and Rezul-Azir, who is what his name was prior to becoming Grneyedmusikl. Rezul-Azir's story came in D1, and that story in particular was the beginning of Bungie taking storytelling through lore in a better format, because when we started getting those cards, we got it was released in a very disjunct fashion where we would get one piece
right
during one season, and then it would be months, and then we'd get another piece and another little hint, a crumb towards the story, and you don't get the final piece of the puzzle until the very end of D1, where you find out, oh my god, this hero Rezul-Azir, who is touted as the guardian, the best of the best, is also the worst of the worst in Grneyedmusiklvr, and was the eater of hope, and who killed hundreds of guardians. You don't connect those two till the end, because we had 2 different stories that eventually came together. John Groff was the writer of that, and he did an excellent job of it, but you never got it in game. So the world building is there. There's tons of cool backstory there. But unless you are somebody like Bife, or somebody who just loves to read things online somewhere else, you never got it. So lore people like myself and Blue and Bife and Mylan, we started telling the story for Bungie.
I love it. I mean, I watch all their videos, and on especially Bife. Bife had a video that talked about the complete story before Destiny 2 rolled around.
Yeah, that's stupid video. I love that video. But like the YouTube channel, the algorithm. Have you seen that meme? It's not just a meme; it's a thing. Like if you let YouTube run, it'll eventually go back. It's like 7 Degrees of Bife on YouTube.
Right. It's a long video, folks. Is what we're saying. It's a very long video, but you know what? Here's the thing I do love about Destiny 2 is they have integrated the lore into weapons, into parts of the story that you can read later. Like right now, I'm not reading any of the Savathun lore that we're picking up every week. I want to read it all at once, like a book. And because it's talking about, well, I'm not going to get into it too deep, but it's talking about Savathun basically is blocking the signal. We're trying to talk with these pyramid ships. They want to talk to us. But Savathun, she's the trickster. She's trying to deceive us and cloud our judgment where we can't, I guess we can't hear the truth of what actually our relationship is with the triangle ships. I don't know. I don't know. Am I in the right direction there?
I mean, that is what we've been given to believe, or what we've been led to believe. That's the problem, right?
So I'm wrong. Okay.
No. It's not necessarily. That's the weird thing about D2 lore, is that in D1 we touted everything as absolute truth.
Right.
And then there was an uprising at the beginning of D2 where Bungie said it's all folklore, and the lore community lost its shit because if it's folklore, that means not everything has to be exactly what it said in the cards.
It's open to interpretation, right?
Exactly. It's all based on perception. And that's something that Bungie has stuck to a long time. Like they have continued to stick to that. And so everything that we're getting with the Savathun entries that you're talking about are from the perspective of Eris and her interpretation of what Savathun is doing.
Okay.
So is it actually what Savathun's doing?
We don't know.
Very likely, but we don't know. And that's one of the weird things that I have to be able to say now is just like, it may be. Eva Levante may be Savathun. We don't know at this point.
Don't pick on Grandma. Come on.
Oh.
She makes good cookies. Good cookies.
She does.
Well, let me ask you this before we move on. I know we got a lore entry we want to talk about. What do you think? What is your what is your what do you let me phrase it this way. What do you think is going to happen in the lore ending this season? Where do you think we're going to be heading towards as far as how this lore entry ends?
I think we're going to see exactly what that tree is making and find out that the light and dark may not be very different. They may be a lot more similar than we think. And if you paid attention to the prophecy dungeon and all the artistic and stylistic things that they put in there, you see that the light is the primary thing at the end. Like if you go all the way to the end where the giant emissary is, you see this broken circle, right?
Right.
Not a perfect circle, a broken circle that emits light. And then you turn around and you see a darkness. But if you move, you notice that that darkness is actually your shadow. So there are things that I think we're going to learn about the dark and the light in so much as who's the good guys, who's the bad guys, are there good guys and bad guys? Is the tree making another traveler? It kind of looks like it. Is it going to be a white traveler that works for the light, or is it a dark traveler, or is the traveler being made with the dark because the traveler has to have aspects of both to be created?
Okay.
There's all sorts of different questions that are being brought up.
Okay. We'll have to see, I guess.
Interesting. I've got a question.
Okay.
Go for it.
Well, it's actually not a question that I had, but a question that Jealous had. And I figured this is a perfect time to throw it back into the mix here. So he came up with an idea that maybe what the thought is that the light side is about time progressing. And the darkness is about either slowing time or stopping time altogether.
Okay.
Oh, I remember him asking that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I haven't considered that.
Because it's like a frozen power.
Yeah. Stasis is the darkness power.
Okay.
Whereas like fire burns and that kind of thing. So that was his thought. And I'm like, I thought that was interesting. So I just wanted to throw that out to see if there's any hints at lore from like a time perspective regarding like slowing down time or something like that.
Well, what I know from lore that's related to the darkness is that the darkness wants to eventually get to nothing. That is the goal. It wants everything to be gone. The whole thing with the story in the Books of Sorrow is the final shape, right? And so the darkness itself is time perspective. I don't know if there's a unique thing tied directly to that, because that gets into like the Vex and stuff like that too, because the Vex are very time focused. But entropy, which is another way of saying like breaking something down or slowing something down. Entropy is something I've heard related to the darkness a lot. The idea of making something to where it can no longer function either by breaking it down molecularly or slowing it down via ice, like we're going to use with stasis. That
decay. That's something Gator and I talked about in Easy.
There's a new power.
Back. Yeah, like something that we wanted to see. And that was one of the things that we mentioned that I mentioned was I wanted to see the decay class that is out there on Reddit and stuff like that.
Yeah, I gotta give Easy credit on that one. He's the one that mentioned it in the question when it was asked.
Decay. Oh, I did.
Did you?
Yeah, me.
Okay.
I mean, it's like Thorn, right? Like you want the idea of decay or poison to take over something. And the Weapons of Sorrow were all about that, of breaking things down. Right. And Weapons of Sorrow were supposedly darkness weapons that we have utilized. Yeah.
Well, I realize your time is valuable, Green, so we could go down a big rabbit hole here. I want to get to our main segment because I'll just be honest. I didn't know much about lore. I really wasn't into lore until I got that first anthology book from Bungie. And every morning I would read a little excerpt before I went to work. And don't ask me how, but I read a little excerpt every morning. Okay, let's just leave it at that. And I was fascinated by the Books of Sorrow, which was the very first story in the very first lore book that Bungie put out. And that, since that story was so eye-opening, I wanted to know if you could share at least an introductory, maybe a synopsis of the Book of Sorrow.
Sure. So the Books of Sorrow are the story of Oryx, Zavathun, and Xivu Arath from the very beginning to where we see them in Taken King. And what you learn through the Books of Sorrow is that what they intended is not evil to begin with, because you start with children of Arash, Zathona, and Zyro, because they're not even the creatures that we see when we get to the Taken King. And those three find out that there is a traitor in the court where they grew up, and that traitor essentially led an entire army from another nation into the court to help murder their father, who was the king. The three sisters swear a blood pact with each other that they were going to avenge, and they're going up against Teox. Teox is a character who led that other army in, essentially. She was the traitorous one who basically said, these children cannot lead. They're not good enough. I need to basically wipe the slate clean. And Teox is a sterile wizard, essentially. She's a sterile wizard form, or warlock form, not warlock form, mother form. And the sisters make that blood pact, and they try for years, essentially a year, to try to find a way to get back at Teox. And they search and they search and search, and they eventually dive down into Fundament, which is the home planet of the Krill, which is what they are at that time. When they dive down, they're in one of those needle ships that, if you remember back from D1s, like the needle ships that were landing all over the Cosmodrome that we would go into. They used one of those ships to dive into Fundament. And they came across a giant Leviathan who was touted to be of the sky. And the Leviathan warned them, do not go further. You will not like what you see, essentially. And the Leviathan is booming and everything like that. But in the background, Zathona has taken her father's worm, this husk of a white worm who was his familiar, who talked to him, because the king was honestly crazy before everything went down. And this worm has been talking to her and has been telling her to dive deeper. So she convinces the sisters to continue on, and further down into the Fundament they went. And when they get to the base of the Fundament, they find the worm gods, and eventually make a pact with them that they want to be able to affect change in their world. They want to prevent the god wave, the syzygy, from occurring. They want to basically get back at Teox. They want to become stronger and live longer, because the Krill's lifespan is about 10 years at that point, and they were already 4 years old. So they make the pact, and they take the worm larvae onto themselves and become Hive. They do not take their current forms. That doesn't happen until later. But you continue on through the story, and the pact basically made them promise that they would follow their nature. For Zavathun, it was to never abandon cunning. For Xivu Arath, it was to always pursue war. And for Oryx, the navigator, it was always to try to satisfy curiosity. And from there, the women were neutral, I guess you can say, at the time, because there was no gender at that point. The neutral sisters, is what we're calling them, went out into trying to find everything else. And they began to gather more upon them, and they began to start to build their own war from there. Teox escapes. They start to go from moon to moon, and hollow moons, war moons themselves, and destroy civilization after civilization because of the war that Xivu Arath has to find. And then Zathona, or Zavathun, started to be cunning and to infiltrate different civilizations and then break them down from the inside, Oryx continually grabbed power and satisfied curiosity by learning more and more. And we find later and later in the book that these siblings eventually take on their forms that we know them as today. And then the Taken King happens.
Right.
You have Oryx, who goes into the deep and learns the deep secrets and steals essentially the books from them.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember the priest,
yep.
I can't even remember that proper term for it anymore. The priest within the raid, war priest.
War priest, yeah.
So he had the tablets, and you learned that those tablets had the words of ruin on them, and Oryx learns about how to take from the hive gods or the deep themselves and kind of bypass the hive gods, because they're trying to get out of their deal, their Faustian deal. Because the more that they fulfill their nature, whether it's cunning or war or curiosity, the more the worm grows and the hungrier the worm grows.
Yes,
so
exactly.
It continually drives them to go further and bigger until we see them in the Taken King. And now we're dealing with Savathun on a more personal level, who has basically made a battery for herself within the Dreaming City with everything that's going on with Dolankaru and the curse that is cycling. So she's making herself more and more powerful each and every cycle with that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
I did not know that. I did not know that. What amazed me about the beginnings, Zivu Arath, and it was Auryx then, not Oryx, but Auryx,
Mm-hmm.
I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
Right.
and Auryx, he was a sister, right? He wasn't really a brother?
Correct.
They were all sisters. They're all female.
They don't take on the forms until later. So when you quote unquote graduate or evolve as a hive or a krill, you can either take the mother jelly, which is what turns you into the wizards, or basically like the brood mothers.
Right.
And then you can also take the night form, which is what Zivu Arath took, which is the male night form. Then the king form, which is another male form, is what Oryx took.
I see. And is this is basically the foundation for the hive, correct?
It is. It absolutely is,
And,
because beforehand they were just krill. They weren't hive.
Right. They were little fragile creatures that only lived 10 years. And that's what I thought was so fascinating. They made the deal with, I think it was Akka. Was it the worm god Akka? They made this deal with?
Yep.
Gosh, I was reading this. I was just fascinated with the way they were talking about this story. And yeah, like you said, this deal just kept getting, I mean, I guess Oryx was the one who had to conquer things, right? Savathun had to be cunning. What did Zivu Arath do? I can't remember what her role was.
Make war.
Make war, that's right. And they realized they were destroying all of these worlds and races, or whatever you want to call it, species, and they were running out of things to kill. And they realized if they didn't continue to do what they were supposed to do, the worm was going to eat them from within, right?
Yep. And then from there, you find out that they start to kill each other.
Yes.
But then after, because...
in the Ascendant plane.
So Zivu Arath was going to kill
Oryx,
but Savathun, I believe, is the one who ended up actually doing the killing blow. Oryx gets killed really early on in the story, but Oryx is resurrected by redefining Oryx.
That's crazy.
Which is another totally weird concept.
It is weird.
But when Oryx is killed, Oryx is able to commune a little bit more closely to the deep or to the worm gods and find out that you're not really actually going to die. The only way that you can truly die is if you get killed in your throne world, which is what we do in Taken King. So weird thing about Taken King, the Dreadnought, that's a worm god ship turned inside out.
Wow.
That is a worm god that has been basically inverted.
Really?
Yeah.
I was wondering why it was so gooey and sticky everywhere.
I mean, hive, it's going to be gooey and sticky, but yeah.
Don't laugh at me, Hazel.
No, I'm laughing at her saying it's the hive. It's going to be ooey and sticky.
And people don't believe this, but when you play on 60 frames and at 60 frames per second and you're playing at a wide FOV, you can see every detail of the hive head, everything dripping and oozing off of them. They're so much more scarier when they're in greater detail. And, well, thank you for that, because this is a story that got me into lore.
Yeah.
And it's
a cool one.
It's a very early story, but it was amazing how they struck this deal with Akka. And Akka was like, fine, I'll make you as powerful as you want to be, but here's the deal. I live with inside. If you notice when you kill a hive, there's a little worm left. It's because every hive has a piece of that worm, right?
Yeah, every hive, it's not necessarily a piece of the worm. Every hive has a symbiotic relationship with a worm who is a child of the originals.
That's just fascinating. Did you know that, Hazel?
I knew some of what she said there, but I'm getting ready to turn on D1 just so I can go back to the Dreadnought and walk around.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, and this is why, everybody, shameless plug, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is why on Friday nights on Twitch, you need to tune in to Focus Fire Chat, because they're talking about all kinds of things. The last thing they talked about was the 9, and it was fascinating as well. You guys cover everything. You guys cover characters. You go back and talk about old stories. You even revisit stuff at time to time, from what I've seen.
Oh yeah, there's always developments in the stories. We've done everything. We've actually talked about weapon lore and stuff like that, because back in D1, there were some weapons that had a little bit of lore to them, not quite like Thorn and Last Word, but the Iron Banner weapons actually had a ton of little lore bits in the flavor text to each of the weapons. So you got a little bit about some of the secondary lords, not the primary ones like Aphrodite and Saladin, but there's a lot of hidden stories that are fun to flesh out if you're willing to go dig for them.
So in other words, when you get that exotic, guys, and it says hit triangle to explore or open up, or details, or whatever the word is, it says, there's lore behind those weapons. Read those entries. And even if it doesn't make sense, just reading through that lore will give you some background about the weapon. It's amazing stuff.
One of my favorite little hidden pieces of lore is actually about Luna's Howl.
You want to share it?
Yeah, absolutely. So Luna is actually a dog that hung out with a guardian and went with a guardian to the moon. And you can find Luna's collar on the moon right now. If you go to the section of the Nightmare Hunts where it looks like a portal back behind, I'm trying to remember that area that has the main public event on the northern, Sarah's Harbor.
Yep.
So if you go back there behind that area where there's that big Vex nightmare, there is a dog collar. That is Luna's collar.
No
and
way.
Luna was a dog that hung out with a guardian, and it's a really sad story. Like, if you've never read that card entry, go and read it, because it is a very loving story between a guardian and his dog. It is a man and his dog story written in Destiny.
I'll be in tears. Yeah.
It's so good. And the person who wrote that is the same person who writes all the lore for Shax.
Wow. I can just tell you're very passionate, and when you talk about this, I love it. I love hearing this. It's just the reason why I wanted you on, because a lot of our knuckleheads around here don't know any of this, including this idiot. I'm sorry, this my buddy next to me here. But it's just like I said, it's a whole other dimension to Destiny, guys. When you're out there shooting stuff and not kill stuff and don't die, it's amazing how much story is wrapped up in each weapon and each character. And when you know all of that, I'm telling you, it's a long trek. Believe me, there's a lot of lore to go through here. But little by little, just dig into a little bit of lore. It's really good. So, I'm sorry, Hazel, do you have a question?
No.
You don't?
I don't. I'm.
You're just freaking out.
I am, because I'm really anxious to go and read this book now.
This is exactly why I wanted Green on tonight. I knew it would turn a lot of our listeners onto its lore.
Let me challenge you to something.
Okay.
Name your favorite location in Destiny.
Venus. I love the Institute.
The Ishtar Collective.
Yes.
So that story is really cool because it actually ties into the Vex and how visitors went in, or the scientists went into the Vex network itself to study the Vex network, and there were over 200 copies. I believe it was like 213. Their story is continuing in Destiny 2 because they dealt within the Undying season, and there are entries where they possibly walk out of the Vex network along with somebody who was in Vault of Glass.
I know you're going to talk about.
Who is trapped.
Who is it?
Her BFF, I think.
Yeah, we saw his bones, right? In that one mission.
Toland? Wasn't it Toland?
Was it Toland?
No. Toland was Crota's. No. There's Pahanin or Praedyth. I'll give you the options.
It's Praedyth. It's Praedyth.
Uh-huh.
It's definitely Praedyth. I remember running that story several times.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So how far back? I mean, if someone wants to say, "Hey, I'm in. I want to get into Destiny lore," where do they start?
Start exactly how I asked you. Like, find something that you enjoy, whether it's a location or a weapon, and then start learning about it. And then just go to a website, this website, Ishtar Collective. It's a really great website put up by my friend Baxter.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up here now.
Yeah, you can search for any keyword, whether if you want to search for, say, you love the Awoken, just type in Awoken and you're going to get a ton of different information. And you can, if it looks way too crazy, you're like, I want everything about the Awoken from vanilla Destiny. Go to the release tab on the very far left there and click on that, and it'll break it down and you can start learning about these different things there.
This is a beautiful site. I mean, I pulled it up the other night when I was watching your video on demand, and I wasn't you guys were talking about a different thing, but I wanted to look at Books of Sorrow, and it's amazing the time they put into this website.
Yeah.
So the Ishtar Collective.
Yeah. So honestly, find a location, find an item, and just go look up about that. And then if there's something within that item that you're like, hey, I kind of want to know a little bit more about that, just kind of go from spot to spot and let it trail you along, because we talk about rabbit holes. This is a perfect way to start learning lore, is just to let yourself go into a rabbit hole and find out little bits about different things, whether it's a gun or not.
Is this the mental web you're talking about? Your webbing? You start from one spot? No, okay, it's different. Okay.
I can show you a picture of that a little bit later.
I didn't pull it up. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Other stuff in front of me here, but I was just amazed how beautiful this website was. I mean, the artwork and everything is pristine. It really is nice. So it's ishtarcollective.net out there. Ishtar-collective.net for all you wanted to get into this. So, Green, thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm floored that I knew Hazel would get all fired up, because the first thing you should do is support Bungie and buy the first two books, the first two lore books. They are releasing. It is on pre-order now. The third book, I have no idea what it's going to cover. I like the first book the best because it had more of the basic stories, and the second book kind of jumped around a lot between characters and stuff, but I still enjoyed reading it. And at least start there, and then you want to go really in depth. I'm telling you, this Ishtar Collective just opened my mind. It's amazing what's in this.
Yeah.
So
Mylan Games actually helped arrange the anthology. So
yes, he did.
He did a great job of pulling things, and Bungie obviously had things specifically in mind that he wanted them, or they wanted him to include in there, but he helped design the layout of what he thought was also some of the most important things.
I see. I'm looking at this mind map now. Okay. I see what you're talking about. Wow. Haka? Oh, wow. Okay. I will definitely go down a hole there. It's a little intimidating, guys. I know it is, but I think Green's right. Just find something that you were interested in Destiny 1, like I talked about the Ishtar, the collective, and just start reading. Yeah, it's just like a book. Just pull up a chapter and start reading a little bit into it on your lunch break or something. You'll be amazed. And of course, if you want to know, I mean, you guys talk about you're talking probably more current stuff now, right? With like the 9 and stuff. Is something related to the season?
Right now, yes. We're actually going back and doing a lore breakdown of all the locations and everything included in those locations. So we just did one on Titan and everything related to Titan and their history there. But honestly, if you're not necessarily a reading person, I'm going to do a shameless plug right here for my own podcast that I'm getting ready to start releasing next week. I have a podcast that's going to be called Destiny Lore Audio File, and it is just the lore. It's me and a few of my friends and volunteers who have decided that, hey, this lore, you don't want to necessarily sit on Ishtar Collective and read it all day. Maybe you're going to drive to work and you want to listen to one of the books.
Oh,
I've recorded it for you.
That's even better. Because I'm not a reader. I fall asleep and I read too much.
Yep. So I've got it for you in an audio form that'll be releasing. The first one is going to release on the 6th of August.
Where can people find this?
It'll be on your podcast. You can do podcast feed. So You'll be able to download it. It's going to be in about 30-minute chunks. So It's not super long. It'll give you a chance to do like maybe one commute to work a week and just be able to listen to the lessons. And I believe the first one I put in there is one of the current books, but I do go back and I do the Maracena. I've done the Black Armory Papers, which is another crushing but amazing story.
I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait. And if say you want a friend to just, put your hand on your shoulder and kind of explain what this lore is about, like I said, Focus Fire Chat is a perfect podcast also, in addition to the lore podcast you're talking about, because they sit back and they just discuss a certain part of the lore, and it makes it very understandable for dumbheads like me. So, so thank you. Thank you for sharing that all tonight. It was fantastic. It went better than I expected it to. So, any closing, anything you want to say, Hazel, Green, anything before we move on?
Thank you guys for having me on. It's been a blast.
Well, Hazel?
I need to stop reading lore. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. And I think we still have one more part left.
Yeah, we do.
Two parts.
We got a great part coming up. This is our Twitter and Discord questions from our community. And I think we have several pointed at Green tonight. So I'm curious to see how she answers this.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll do that right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of the week. This is our Twitter and Discord questions we get from our community. And we have a few from Twitter addressed to Green. Hazel, do you have those in front of you?
Yeah, I have one here. It's from Charmed Pluto, at Charmed Pluto, at Guardian_D_cast, and at Grneyedmusiklvr. If you could work with any other content creator, who would it be?
There are a few different content creators I'd like to work with someday, and I don't even know in what capacity, but Log Power Slave is one of them. He and I have chatted a few times about working together.
I love that guy.
Oh, man, he's so much fun. Sarah Daniels would be another one.
Okay.
And I mentioned Obi Katie Cat. I'd like to work with her, too, at some point.
Very good. Okay, I have another one, Hazel. This one is from Le Monarch, or at Best Exotic Bow, at Guardian Dcast, at Grneyedmusiklvr, i.e. Monarch? ? What's the story behind that?
Okay, so the story behind my Le Monarch fascination has to do with a certain Titan that I run with named Dwyerfire 13. He came down with the idea that one day he was going to run Le Monarch and a hand cannon, because that was the cheese that was going on at the time in Crucible. And I got so mad at him that I decided to pick up the bow myself, and I haven't put the stupid thing down. It is so much fun. I love being a sneaky elf in the background, essentially poisoning you from across the map, because there's no glare. You can't see where I'm at. It's so sad.
Yeah, that's annoying in Crucible. That bow is annoying.
I love it. It's so much fun.
I can tell she's really sorry about it.
Sorry.
I can hear it in her voice, too. All right, we got a few more from Twitter. Hazel, why don't you grab another one?
All right. So this is Owen Spence at Atlix Music.
Mm-hmm.
So what are Green's top 5 pieces of Destiny music, and why?
So this one, I actually had to go through and start listening to some of the Destiny music, because there's a lot out there again. Owen is a friend of mine. He actually was the one who helped release the original music of the Spheres before Bungie did. He was part of that project to help recreate it. So honestly, a lot of my original answers would be from the Music of the Spheres release that Bungie did prior to Destiny's release. Actual in-game stuff, I think Cabal Stomp is still one of my favorites. The Regicide song, Court of Orcs, Dreaming City, a lot of the location music is really fascinating to me because it really enhances not only the feel of the area, but also you get a very unique style with each location. So I would say location pieces and some of the original Taken King and original music in D1 would be my favorites.
Yeah, those are very good.
Nice.
Yeah. Okay, I've got one from R. Widowson at Guardian Dcast at Grneyedmusiklvr. Could the darkness be trusted? And he has this in parentheses, as in, is it an opposing view rather than absolute good and evil? Bonus question, is Eva Savathun? Okay.
So,
I may be wrong. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Could the darkness be trusted? It wants you to think it can be trusted. It's exactly making the argument he's talking about. It's just like, hey, I just have a different viewpoint on it. There's the traveler idea, or the idea of the traveler is that it's rampant life. And the darkness idea is that it is the one who basically pulls the weeds out of all the rampant life. It's the cull of the gardener. The traveler is the gardener. The darkness is the winnower, the one who takes away. So you have to have a balance of both. Could the darkness be important right now? Do we have too much light rampant? I don't know. We have to balance the scale somehow.
Well, kind of think about where our DLC's headed.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of I've been told this is going to be the new DLC of the darkness, right? At least that's what I've been told.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the flavor of it.
Yeah.
The question of, is Eva Savathun? You guys laugh, but I have a theory that
What?
I can back that up.
Okay.
I can back up that Eva is Savathun because Eva has many voice lines where she asks specifically, have you killed any gods lately, Guardian? There are other things that Eva has done. She disappeared for a while during the Red War. We do get her story in Eva's journey, but she shows up at very important times in the tower because she is the holiday vendor.
Oh boy.
Is she? Theoretically, she could be. Is she? I don't know.
Okay. We'll have to see. Maybe that will be enlightened later in the Destiny years. I think we have one more left. I think it's your turn, isn't it, Hazel?
Yeah. So, again, from Owen Spence at Atlex Music. Also, if I can ask a second one, what does Green think of the Alpha Lupi arrays in the Nines realm? Does she feel as though they're significant? And if so, what significance does she think they hold?
Hold on, Green. I got this. Hold my beer.
Okay. Go for it.
Oops, I dropped my beer. Could you take that one, please?
So what he's talking about is the original ARG that happened years and years and years ago about Alpha Lupi, which was this game that Bungie put together before Destiny ever came out. And in that ARG, you had to discover these different arrays, which were symbols. And the symbol that he's talking about is essentially one that looks like a solar system with multiple orbits being placed around it. You see it in the Prophecy Dungeon. You see it on Equinox. Mm-hmm. Is it significant? To the extent that the Nine are very mathematical in their approach to things because they are a binary group. They very much so think in binaries. There's not really a whole lot of gray area, but they won't necessarily tell you all of that. I think it's only significant in the fact that they may be slightly involved with the idea of Alpha Lupi, but I don't think they are Alpha Lupi, which is a whole nother rabbit hole to get down.
Okay. That's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to steal your thunder on that one.
Yeah, that one's definitely a over the head for a lot of people because that's some really deep lore stuff in there.
Sure. Okay, I got one here. This is from our Discord. This is from Jealous.
Okay.
What state or country has your favorite license plate?
Oh, gosh.
This is easy for me. It's where you
Yeah.
live. I love the Colorado tag. It's very simple. Green and white looks very good on a car. And
Yeah, but the problem with the Colorado tags is that you can support any number of different things. So there's hundreds of Colorado tags.
Oh, there is now, but there didn't used to be.
Yeah.
I remember I'm talking about the old-fashioned tag. I see people in Florida. Face it, we see everybody down here, and I see those Colorado tags. I'm like, that is freaking cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's
really easy to read.
Yeah.
It's really easy to read.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I can tell you which one I don't like. I do not like the Hawaii one. It's cool, but it's impossible to read. It's a little bit too... there's a lot of different colors going on, so it makes it difficult to read from a distance.
Okay. Hazel?
Yeah, my first thought was Colorado, just because of the green mountains that they show on there. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, no, it's your turn. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Hazel.
No, you're good. All right. So, we'll go with this one from Fluffy Fingers MD. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. From Drafty.
I was going to say, he didn't put one in there.
Fluffy did. Yeah, he did.
Oh, he did? I better get working then.
Yeah. Actually, a question for the show from Drafty at Grneyedmusiklvr. What do you have against Toland?
Toland is a bastard who basically took advantage of a situation to try to further his own knowledge, and essentially, while knowing that all of his fire teammates would die going into the raid, didn't care and did it anyway. Toland, I mean, that's my main reason. There's personal reasons because I have done a lot of RPing, like role play, like written role play, and the person who has played Toland has also been. He gets a little upset when I say that I don't like Toland, and I just like to needle him. So that's the other half of it.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got one here from Nate Fu. People seem to butcher your username and gamer tag often. What's the worst foible you have made with someone else's?
I actually did it to one of my readers for the new podcast. There is another show called Video Game Crosstalk, and their host is Hypersyntax. I read it as Hyper Saint and recorded it as Hyper Saints. Luckily, he caught it when he did the review.
Awesome.
But, oh my gosh, it was so bad. It's just one of those, it's so easy to misread gamer tags. Yeah. It's so easy.
It is. Especially with all the XX bracket underscores.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Elite speak.
Yeah. All right. So, Chris3711, question for Green. Is there any hope that one day Chris3711 can be a PvP ninja like you? The correct answer here is no.
I mean, I've played with Chris before. Chris could get better, but will he ever catch up? I mean, I'm going to keep getting better too.
Oh, jeez. Poor Chris.
Love you, Chris.
I'll read this one from Uncle Scumdeath. This is our buddy from across the pond.
Nice.
I've just eaten a pizza, and the cheese was like molten lava, and it's burnt the roof of my mouth. What's the worst food injury? Love the show, brothers. I guess what's the worst food injury that's we've had, I guess, is what he's saying.
I would say fair food, because you have like deep fried things, and you like a deep fried Twinkie or deep fried Snickers bar, and if you bite into that too soon without it cooling down, it's just hell in your mouth.
I immediately thought of Hot Pockets.
Right? Those are awful too. Like anything in a contained, it's like creating the perfect fusion of all the bad things inside, and you're just like, oh, the outside's fine, it'll be fine. Bite into it, my mouth is on fire and I can't talk because I'm sputtering.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
There's a Chinese place here in town, and they have I'm talking the best sweet and sour chicken. And they deep fry that chicken, man. And it's so good. I don't care. I'll eat through the burn. And every time I order that from them, my roof of my mouth is burnt the next morning. So it's all numb.
I do have a runner-up. Have you guys ever done the hot wing challenge at Buffalo Wild Wings?
No, I haven't done that.
Oh my God. It's not even the food going in your mouth after. Like, it is the sauce. If the sauce gets anywhere on your skin, on your lips, it burns. It's a chemical burn. Like, the mouth is one thing. The heat is one thing. I'm fine with that. But once it's on your, like, if you have chapped lips at all, you are screwed. It hurts so bad.
Hot sauce. Ugh. No.
Yeah.
No.
See, I love hot things. So I'm definitely going to think about this now.
Well, while we're thinking of hot meals, let's just get this one from Jealous. What is your favorite or ideal pizza to eat? List ingredients or say basic pizza and add in toppings. I like basic pizza with bacon and pepperoni, stuffed crust cheese, and also have the crust garlic brushed. Man, there's not fat in that. Ooh, okay. Well, we'll go to our guest first.
I'm pretty basic on it. I like a thin and crispy crust with the brushed garlic butter sauce, pepperoni with onions and mushrooms. Fairly straightforward.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I like veggie pizzas. I like a regular crust though. I like regular cheese and not that good. But I like a little bit of sprinkling of Italian sausage.
It's a good pizza. That's good.
Yeah, I love onions and mushrooms, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Mm.
What about you, Hazel?
I mean, I'm fine with all the vegetables and all that, but just give me, a thin crust, pepperoni and sausage.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Light up a cigarette afterwards, like.
It is like a dirty lover at that point, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fat.
Yes.
Your stomach will tell you later.
Usually.
Yeah.
So, question from Drafty. Is it possible that Ariana was the bad guy and Toland was just tagging along for the free ascendancy?
Ariana was doing it for vengeance. We're talking about the Crota fire team at this point again. So Ariana was going in to beat Crota because Crota killed Ariana's lover, Wei Ning, during the major war that happened on the moon prior to everything when Crota was kind of free on the moon's surface. So Ariana, you could say that Ariana is the bad guy because she was doing it out of vengeance. Yeah, you could say it that way.
But she won't. So.
I mean, Toland's still an asshole either way. I don't care if he was just doing it for the free ride.
Well, since I botched the fact that Fluffy did put a question in here, I about fell out of my chair. This one is okay. This one may be a little particular, but we'll go with it. If you happen to invite one of your friends whose name rhymes with Hey C Hesse to your raid party Saturday night, then your quote friend proceeds to get anarchy and 1,000 voices in the same night. Is he still your friend? And he did want to mention that I don't have 1,000 voices yet. What do you think, Green?
I mean, how petty are we getting with it? I mean, I don't have anarchy. I have 1K though. So sorry. I mean, depends on your level of forgiveness, Fluffy.
I can't answer that because I've gotten 1,000 on like the second try and I got the anarchy on the first try. So I'm probably not the person to answer that question. What about you, Hazel?
Unfriend.
Oh, wow. Okay. Make sure I don't raid with you next time. Okay, your turn, Hazel.
All right. So we're going to do one more question each and then move on from there.
Sounds good.
To the songs and call it a night.
Sounds good.
So we will go with...
You're killing me on this editing, by the way.
I'm sorry. There's so many questions. All right. Chris 3711. Question for the show. What is everyone's celebrity crush?
I like how everyone contemplates a little bit, like it's only.
I have a clean answer.
I did research. So
You did research?
I didn't have to. Go ahead, Hazel. Since you did research, we'll give Green some time to think on this one.
Okay. I had to go with Samara Weaving.
Okay.
She's from Ready or Not and that show that movie Guns Akimbo that I mentioned.
I got to see that movie still.
And she just was like fun in these two roles, and I just dug it. So,
well, my pick is from the new show, I should say, Snowpiercer. But I've loved this person for a long time, and it's Jennifer Connelly. Connelly.
Okay, yeah, I can see that one.
Yeah.
Mine's kind of an older crush. I haven't seen anything from her lately, but Jennifer Lawrence. She is funny. Like, it's not just the movie persona. She is funny in interviews, and I love somebody who can make me laugh.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, I have to end it on this one because this new clanmate has never put a question in the podcast, so I feel I have to read his. So we'll end on this one. This is from Deathstroke 1325. How did you guys form the podcast? We'll give the abbreviated form to not bore our host here.
Our guest.
Our guest, I mean.
Well, actually, we could let her talk about her podcast as well.
Sure.
Well, I mean, if they listen to the entire episode, they've heard FFC's story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Do you want to start out, Hazel?
Well, yeah. Long story short, Dad Tales crew was ending their podcast, ending quote unquote, and then basically everybody started saying, "Hey, these guys should do a podcast, and these guys should do a podcast," and a couple people mentioned myself, and a couple people mentioned Gator. So, Gator, take it. No,
I was kind of floored because I was new to this community. And I was trying to make friends, and I love Dad's Tales. I listened to every one of their podcasts. I even went back and listened to their past episodes because I was so enthralled with each of them, and hear their stories, becoming dads and stuff. And yeah, when my name was thrown out there, I was taken aback. I said, "Geez, can I really do a podcast?" Me and Hazel have never done a podcast before, so now we're on episode 55. So we're getting some sea legs. We're not at 200 plus yet, but no, I mean, I was like I just mentioned to my buddy Jughead, which I've known for 10 years, last week's episode. I would have never thought in 10 years' time that I would be on a podcast of all things. So you just never realize what the future holds, so never close your eyes to it.
Absolutely.
So, yep. Nice.
Yeah, that was a good way to end it. Yeah. Thanks, Deathstroke. Put some more questions in there, buddy. Well, then on that note, then let's move on to our final segment of the show. This is where we add 2 songs each to our Spotify playlist and also our playlist on iTunes. This is the Guardian Down playlist on Spotify and iTunes. And we always start with our guest of honor. What we do, Green, is we mention our songs and maybe a reason why we picked them. It doesn't have to be a real long explanation.
Okay. Well, the very first one I picked was High by Civics. And Civic is a kind of electronic type music, but it's very well composed, which is something I actually look for in a lot of my electronic music. I don't want just your normal dubstep type thing. I want something that has a unique style to it. And Civics does a really great job, plus cool hair, which, I mean, you got to love it. Beyond that, I picked Salt by Ava Max because our community has tons of it, and I might as well throw in a little bit more myself.
There we go. Nice. I listen to both. I love them both. It's right up my alley, music-wise.
Yep. I listen to them both, too. I like them both.
Well, then that brings you to Hazel. What do you got?
Oh, me?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I picked my first song is my I was out driving this past weekend doing Pokemon Go Fest with my family.
Yes.
I don't know, understand what this fascination with Pokemon is.
Motherfucker, I'll tell you, man. I have, for real, I mean, I haven't played a lick of Destiny, but I've been playing Pokemon Go pretty much nonstop for like, I don't know, like 4 weeks, it feels like. I've lost time, it seems.
Wow.
But when we were out driving around, Flagpole Sitta by Harvey Danger came on, and it took me back immediately to the 90s and watching Disturbing Behavior in a theater with some friends of mine, and just I was like, oh my god, I have to add this now. So yeah, that's one of my songs. And then another song is a newer song from Avenue Beat called F2020, which is a convenient way of saying fuck 2020.
Mhm.
Good point. Yeah, that song is very apropos, definitely. Well, I've been in a mellow mood lately. I can't explain it. I've just been listening to very mellow music lately, and my music choices range up and down all over the place. And my first pick, this is the second song from this British group from Birmingham that formed in 2002. These guys met while attending Staffordshire University. The rest is history. This song is off their self-titled compilation album. It basically is an album that has 3 new songs and then 13 songs from all 15 years that they've been doing this. It's from 2019, and the song is called Black Gold from the band The Editors. This song's a little dark, but I can't stop listening to it. It's been in my head all week, and you know how I like syntho in my rock. So my second pick, I actually changed at the last minute because this album just came out today. This Canadian-American singer, songwriter, record producer, and actress began her career in Canada in the 90s, where she sold an album that everyone knows, 33 million copies of it. It's a well-known rock album back then, and since then, she's released 7 more studio albums, her last in 2012, and then she just disappeared until today. This song is off her new album that just released, named Such Pretty Forks in the Road, and the song is called Smiling. It's an inspirational song that we need to hear today, I think. It's Alanis Morissette. Man, I am so glad to hear her music again.
I love her to death.
Gosh, she's such great music.
And she did a protest album in between her normal albums.
Okay.
It was really well written. It was a bunch of poetry essentially that she had put to song.
It's almost like you're a music lover.
Oh, almost.
If only you had green eyes.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. Well, as requested, Mrs. Gator has chosen a song for this week's show, and this is what she said. This week's pick is a cover of the late 1800s song In the Pines. It's also known as Where Did You Sleep Tonight? And then it's about a murderer. She wrote that, not me. This version of the song is from the group Sleigh Bells. You might also want to check out the 1944 version by Leadbelly, and it's a good one too. So yeah, that is our songs for this week. I just wanted to let everybody know that I usually post a video of these 2 picks from YouTube usually, in our music and movies and TV channel on our Discord. So once you know a little bit about these artists, you'll see a video of them. You don't have to watch them. I just like to add those every week, kind of let everybody know what's up. And I welcome either of you two to do the same thing in that channel. I think we got this, Hazel. I think we're got another episode in the can. Just a little bit of housekeeping. Just a quick reminder that we do have a Destiny 2 clan. And Hazel, I invite all of you to be a part of it. Just good getting together, doing a lot of raiding right now. Playing Crucible, me complaining and being full of salt. Just having a good time. And if you're
I have a song for that.
Do you? Yes, you do. You do. So if you're looking for a clan out there, we have a permanent link in our Discord under the channel GDC Destiny 2 Clan, and it's, of course, going to be in our show notes, wherever you listen to podcasts. So just look for Guardian Downcast, or DOWN is our call sign. Hey, everyone, do us a favor. If you like what you're listening to, hit that share button. Yeah, I'm talking to you, the one listening on your lunch break, or you over there mowing your yard listening to our podcast. Hit that share button. We appreciate all what you guys and gals do out there for us. And again, thank you very much. This comes to the part of the show where we like to promote our guest. And Miss Grneyedmusiklvr, would you like to tell everybody where they can reach you out there in the world?
You can find me at basically on Twitter and everywhere, because nobody would want to make a gamer tag like mine but me, which is Grneyedmusiklvr, spelled Grneyedmusiklvr. I'm on Twitter, Discord. I do have a YouTube channel that I never put anything up. Honestly, if you want to find me on YouTube, go to the Focus Fire chat or go to Destiny Lore audio file, or just go you'll find me. Just go out there, type in Grneyedmusiklvr. I'm the only one out there. You'll find cute pictures of my dogs and the mountains and all sorts of different things. But I do want to do a quick shout out to Chris3711. Thank you so much for suggesting to these guys to have me on, because it's been a blast. So thank you guys very much for having me.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. We had a great time tonight. I mean, it was exceeded my expectations. It really did. It was just an awesome show. Hazel, where can everybody find you, buddy?
Quick and easy. Hazel, NT, everywhere, anywhere. That kind of thing.
You can find me via the Twitter at Todd the Gator. And remember, that's Gatr. You can also find me on YouTube, Steam, and PS4 as Gator, all caps, Gatr, and Gator space GDC on Xbox. I did want to also mention you can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, Stitcher, and anywhere you can get your podcast. You can also email us at guardiandowncast@gmail.com, and we're on Twitter at Guardian_D_cast for show questions or whatever you guys want to talk to us about. Our DMs are open. Or just visit guardiandowncast.com for all the details. And we're now on Instagram. We're starting to add stuff into it now, and just search for Guardian_down_cast. There's not much in there now, but Hazel and I have been talking, and we have some really cool ideas, and we'll be sharing them soon. We have a bunch of great gamers in our Discord as well. Just search for Guardian Downcast. I'll post a link in our show notes if you want to join our Discord, like Miss Green did today. Mm-hmm. Continue to be safe, and everyone take care of one another out there. I did want to read one thing. This is from our buddy, Snatching Panda. And he posted something on Twitter, and I'm going to try to keep it together here, guys. This is what he said. He said, yesterday, I tested positive for COVID-19. I wear a mask every time I leave the house, wash my hands diligently, and disinfect surfaces regularly. I have limited my trips out of the house and work from home for a majority of the time since March. So far, my symptoms remain mild, but only time will tell how this disease will affect me. I am scared for myself and for my family. I am sharing this with y'all to spread awareness and hopefully personalize this disease for you. I am a real person, and this is a real pandemic. Please do your part to prevent the spread. If anyone else was taking the precautions I have been, I probably wouldn't be sick right now. We can beat this, but only if everyone does their part. And I'm going to say it every week. Wear the damn mask in public. There's no reason not to. Don't play with your life and maybe even affect people closest to you. Just do it. I know it's weird, especially for us guys, but it takes little effort, and you're only pitching in to help the greater good. You're not wearing the mask for you. You're wearing it for others around you. Believe me, I didn't want to wear one, but now I wear it every time I go anywhere. And as soon as I'm out of the car, the mask goes on. Thank you all so very much for listening. And later, Guardian.
Toddles.
Bye. Like he is such a broken guy. He's not evil like Lex Luthor. He's kind of accidental evil, if you're going to call him evil at all, because he's just getting roped into things that he doesn't even know what's going on. That's why I laughed.
I kind of have the same opinion, I guess. Yeah.
I'm easy on Drifter because, I agree. I think he's, I don't know. It seems like he knows what he's doing, but then there's times you're like, what?
He wants to make a buck. Like,
yeah.
There's one of my favorite things about Drifter is there's an old story about his background where he's essentially running a bar at the base of the Iron Tomb Mountain, like the old Iron Lord's Mountain, Fellwinter's Peak.
Mm-hmm.
And he's running this bar at the base of it. And Aphrodite comes in and is talking to him about everything going on because Drifter's trying to talk to Fellwinter and trying to talk to the Iron Lords more directly because, he's trying to always cut a deal. And then he starts hitting on Aphrodite and he's like trying to get her to dance. There's so many fun little tiny tidbits that you just like, what are you doing? You suave little shit.
Now, this is in the lore?
Yeah.
God, there's so much I need to learn.
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's awesome.
See, this is exactly why I wanted to introduce a lot of our listeners to lore tonight, because we're just missing out on so many good points about Destiny. It's just like a whole other dimension.
Zathona has taken her father's worm, this husk of a white worm who was his familiar, who talked to him